The story of Warren Jaxon. Nicknamed the All-Action Jaxon, Warren Jaxon's height is 5 foot 9 inches tall, and he weighs around 230 pounds. With the African-American appearance, sporting wrestling shorts and dyed orange faded hair, Warren Jaxon hails from Detroit, Michigan, combining his signature moves of the overdrive and the submission maneuver, the Indian Deathlock. Imagine, if you will, a career in which experiences a rollercoaster of emotions. A journey that takes an underdog and transforms them into a viable member of the roster. Warren Jaxon witnesses all types of reputations throughout his ascendance. Seen as an unworthy competitor in his early beginnings, Warren quickly silences those critics by arrogantly assigning himself the role of a motivator, a teacher of sorts. Attaching his name to an extraordinary alliance, Warren eventually lost his power and soon found himself being underestimated once again by his critics. From refusing to being seen as an underdog to becoming the coast-to-coast champion. From an extraordinary talent to a peacemaking henchman, Warren Jaxon felt the need to prove himself as a high-tier talent from day one, creating huge chips on his shoulders. His constant stop-start momentum made for some irritating events. Just as it seems as though the rocket is strapped to the man's back, we find ourselves with disappointment, as the promised explosions are nothing but a dud. Warren Jaxon was destined for greatness as he competed in the first ever main event of Impetus facing the world champion, Dave Falcon. With the veteran champion welcoming the audience to the first episode, he vented his excitement for the future, ready to find the next top stars in the pro wrestling world. Referring to Charlie Finch and Ricky Matthews as up-and-coming prospects, he couldn't wait to face the underrated talent known as Warren Jaxon later in the evening. Chip on the shoulder. Prepared for his huge main event, Jaxon's voice is heard for the first time as he is interviewed before the match. Although appreciating Dave's excitement to face him, he is slightly insulted to be called underrated. Believing that Dave Falcon does not view him as main event and championship material, he uses this as motivation. Warren vows to show the high level that he can perform at. Taken to the limit by Falcon in the main event, the fight between the two spills to the outside where, eventually, Warren gets the upper hand and throws a groggy Falcon into the ring. However, using some time to recover, Jaxon waits a little too long to where the referee calls for the count of 10. The match is over. Despite Warren's high motivation and determination to defeat the champion, the first main event of Impetus ends in a disappointing countout? A bad start? The odd ending to Impetus's first main event leads to the debate as whether or not Warren intentionally got counted out, perhaps realizing he couldn't defeat the veteran. With Dave Falcon believing those rumors to be true, Warren Jaxon is once again insulted by the champion's undermining statements. Asked if he intentionally got himself counted out, Jaxon refuses to give a straight answer and, instead, claims that those who know him know the truth. Giving such an open-ended statement, Warren is placed in a rematch with Dave Falcon in hopes to rid himself of the questionable reputation. After an equal contest, Jaxon is frustrated that he cannot keep the veteran down and goes to the outside, grabbing a steel chair. Attempting to hit his opponent, he realizes what may lead to yet another debatable ending. From this, he throws the chair down and rethinks his strategy. With this distraction comes the offensive Falcon, fighting back and attempting to hit his finisher move, the Extreme Facebuster, only for Warren to counter and hit his own finisher move, the Overdrive, on the champion. However, the finisher is delivered onto the fallen steel chair, causing a disqualification. An Impetus main event once again ends with more questions than answers, creating the idea that Warren, once again, resorted to underhanded tactics to rid himself of a definitive defeat. Showing signs of sympathy toward the fallen champion, Warren goes to pick Falcon up, only to go to the outside. he grabs Dave's title and simply chucks it on the mat next to him. Now, a more attitudinal Warren Jaxon is revealed, exiting with intensity as the commentators ask if these results have been intentional or accidental. Prove it or lose it. For a man who labelled himself as a main event caliber star, Jaxon hasn't really made it easy for himself, as he now has a countout and disqualification loss to the world champion. With Dave Falcon raising an issue with this, he hopes to rid himself of Jaxon's controversial tricks and move on to other talent that can create a fair and balanced contest. From this, the president of Impetus, Sam Pullen, creates a fatal four-way match the following week, where the winner will face Dave Falcon for the World Impetus Championship at Impetus's first ever pay-per-view, Impulse. With the athletic upstart known as Ricky Matthews, the experienced Kevin Rain, and the breakout star in Charlie Finch announced as the participants, they are joined by the controversial Warren Jaxon. Warren steals the victory in the fatal four-way match, and his winning ways are questioned the following week. The soon-to-be traditional press conference takes place, in which sits the champion and challenger on two separate podiums. They answer questions posed from the public and press in order to promote the pay-per-view. With Dave being asked the hard-hitting questions, Warren feels ignored and begins to rant, telling everyone that when he wins at Impulse, there will be no controversy, as he will no longer be considered underrated, but a champion. Wanting so desperately to believe his main event performances have been on an elite level, Warren is torn down by Falcon, who claims that as soon as the bell rings, there will be no question at all as to who the real main event star is. With his buttons being pushed, Warren stands with intensity and approaches his opponent. With Sam Pullen trying his best to maintain the two in hopes for a photo opportunity, Warren shoves the champion with fury. As the chaos is controlled by security, the president warns the opponents that they may want to save their physicality for Impulse. Sam explains why and reveals that they will be teaming together on next week's final episode before the pay-per-view. Judas In His Mind. Next week's episode shows the future opponents working surprisingly well against Josh Alba and Freddie Cornell, the Essentials. Having time to stare each other down, Warren and Dave's momentum falls as their opponents eventually take over offense. With Falcon in trouble looking for a tag, Warren performs the classic backstabbing action by jumping off the apron and walking away from the match. Warren exits up the ramp, allowing his partner to suffer a foreseeable loss. However, he surprises everyone by storming back in the ring, sending Josh Alba to the outside and hitting Freddie Cornell with the overdrive. Pulling the fatigued Dave to his corner, Warren tags himself in and pins his opponent for the win. Sending mixed signals heading into the pay-per-view, the commentators question if Warren's tactics have been intentional from day one. Impulse. Impetus's first ever pay-per-view main event and inaugural world title match is about to take place, with Warren Jaxon looking to prove the doubters wrong. Warren's refusal to accept his shady match endings as cowardly acts only increase his obsession with being seen as a top star, creating a huge chip on his shoulder. Along with Dave, Warren becomes the first man to experience what Impetus calls the curtain call, locating both champion and challenger backstage and following them as they walk from their locker room to the gorilla position. With the tension heightened, we are ready to have our questions answered, ready to be shown that Warren can indeed stand toe-to-toe with Falcon and defeat him for the championship. As the official turns around to call for the bell, we see Warren finally reveal his true colors, as he quickly kicks Dave below the belt. With Falcon in pain and the bell rung, the official is confused. Warren covers the pained champion instantly, hoping to get a quick victory, only for Dave to kick out. After weeks of trying to convince us all of his status, weeks of cheap and questionable finishes, Jaxon has shown us of his cowardly ways. For the rest of the match, Warren fully establishes himself as a cheat who takes shortcuts in order to become champion. He talks trash to the audience and his opponent, revealing his recent actions to have all been 100% intentional. Embracing his evil deeds, the challenger talks a little too much, as it eventually leads to Falcon getting back on top and finally winning to defend his title. No Action Jaxon. Despite his loss at the pay-per-view, Warren continues to use similar cheap and dirty tactics to get ahead of his opposition. With Falcon moving on to more honest and respectful challengers like Ricky Matthews, Warren hates to be watching from the sidelines, convinced that his approach to his battles are far more reliable and far more threatening than anybody else's. At the Hellbound pay-per-view, the announcement of a second championship is made by the president. Designed to be a stepping stone for his up-and-coming stars, Sam Pullen wants the new coast-to-coast title to be used as a way for stars to make their way up the Impetus ladder. Revealing the title, the president declares an old-fashioned tournament to crown the first ever champion. However, this will not be like any other tournament, as it will be a 12-man bracket. The winners of the first round will enter the second round of a triple threat match. The winners of those two triple threats will head into the third and final round, all for the Coast to Coast Championship at the next pay-per-view. With a new title introduced, the World Impetus title was retained by Dave Falcon later in the night as he defeated Ricky Matthews in the main event. However, their contest didn't end with as much professionalism due to Dave's change of heart. Telling the champion to perform something extraordinary at Hellbound, Ricky witnessed just that, as Dave relied on the up-and-coming team known as Empire to help retain his title, poetically naming his new group Extraordinary. From the controversial loss, Ricky is placed at the back of the line, now competing in the Coast to Coast Championship tournament. Warren and Ricky both progress to the finals at the next pay-per-view, Rebellion, in hopes to undo their disappointing losses to Falcon and replace it with a different coat of gold. Before deciding the new Coast to Coast champion, Ricky and Warren team together in tag team warfare. Performing well as a unit against the quota, it isn't too long before Warren performs the same actions that he did with Dave Falcon. While Ricky reaches for the tag, Jaxon ignores it and, much like before, storms into the ring and hits the opponent with the overdrive. Performing the illegal move, Warren repeats history as he pulls Ricky to his corner, tags himself in, and pins his opponent for the win, just like he did with Falcon. With Warren referring to his previous acts with Dave Falcon, could we see him perform the same actions against Ricky Matthews, only this time with the Coast to Coast title instead? Rebellion. Establishing himself as a rotten, stinking cheater who can't be trusted, Warren surprises everyone as he performs an equal battle with Ricky at the pay-per-view, purely relying on his natural skills as opposed to his repeated foul play. The back-and-forth battle leads to Ricky gaining momentum, attempting to hit his mat attack finishing maneuver. However, Warren's dirty instincts come into play as he reverses the move, hanging Ricky on the top rope, groin first, crashing him to the mat. As Ricky grimaces in pain, Jaxon immediately acts and pins Matthews to become the first ever Coast to Coast champion. Interviewed in the ring seconds after his title victory, Jaxon reminds everyone that he said he'd be a champion, and while no one listened to him, he proved it tonight. He continues his arrogance, stating that many refused to see him as championship material, and tonight he proved them all wrong. With the interviewer exiting and the champion raising his new title, Warren is turned around by an upset Ricky. Matthews looks to fist bump in order to leave with dignity, looking past Warren's actions and attitude. The champion looks at the fist and taps it with his newly won title, walking out with arrogance as Ricky chuckles at the disrespect. All Action Jaxon. Rewarded for his efforts, the Coast to Coast champion parades his gold around with pride as his underhanded strategies heighten along with his ego. Facing the debuting Gary Federline, Warren acts cocky during the match, elated that he is the first ever Coast to Coast champion. However, his arrogance proves to be his downfall as the new face of Gary Federline mounts a huge comeback on his opponent. With Gary about to set up for something big, Warren points to the audience, distracting the official, and rakes the eyes of his opponent in the process. After the dirty move, he bails the ring with embarrassment, running away from further indignity. With Gary in pain and the official counting, Warren looks to get a count-out victory to save his pride. On the count of 9, Gary turns the official around, demanding that his debut match not end with such a disappointing finish. As Gary tries to convince the official to change his mind, Warren decides to ditch his plan, jump back in the ring, and hit the overdrive on his distracted opponent to win the match. The Action Jaxon has done it again, stealing the victory with his unique strategy. He decides to speak to the audience, claiming that this performance tonight is why he became the first ever Coast to Coast champion. Warren states that the title was designed for him, and that if anybody has a problem with that, if anybody disagrees with him, they can shove it up their asses. After his victory over Ricky Matthews and Gary Federline, the shine of the title seems to have blinded Jaxon's reality, as he announces his new mindset on the world of wrestling. In a backstage interview, Warren sends a direct message to those like Gary Federline, claiming that all of the love and admiration from the crowd will get them absolutely nowhere. He knows this from experience, as he used to think the exact same way. Warren tells Gary to stop relying on the fans, just like he did, and rather become a champion, just like he did. Deluded into thinking that his mindset is the best, the Action Jaxon's confidence is at an all-time high. His immoral tactics may be questioned by many, but it leads him to more victories along the way. One man that amounts equal success without using such chicanery is the aforementioned Gary Federline, whose high-flying and technical styles lead to not only a rise in audience popularity, but a rise in impressive wins. Gaining more momentum, Gary talks about his short and enjoyable start to Impetus and thanks everybody for their support. He talks about his passion and pride for the business, but is stopped by the disappointed Warren Jaxon. The Coast to Coast champion is saddened by Gary's decision to pander to the crowd rather than take his own advice. Using himself as an example, Warren tells Gary that the fans' admiration will amount to nothing. He gives Gary one more chance to follow in his footsteps, turn on the people, and perhaps one day soon become a champion. Federline laughs at the idea, claiming that he loves this business just like the crowd and considers himself to be one of them. Gary states that he would prefer to be the way he is now rather than be a selfish, arrogant, egotistical douchebag. Warren sniggers, saying that Gary will never become a champion by being one of them. In hopes to prove the villain wrong, Gary challenges Warren to a coast-to-coast title match at the next pay-per-view, To the Pain. Warren chuckles and accepts, promising Gary a disappointing result. In what seems to be a tradition, Warren teams with his soon-to-be opponent 1 week before the pay-per-view yet again. Facing Bobby Manuel and Jerry Kane, Warren becomes irritated that his partner is unable to make a tag. With the champion attempting to repeat his dirty actions, he decides to take out both of his opponents as the illegal man. Dragging his partner to his corner, hoping to tag himself in, Warren has declined the chance as Gary attacks, hitting him with the Fed Cred finisher. With Warren rolling out the ring in pain and shock, Gary covers Bobby to get the win. Spiting the Coast to Coast champion in the process, Gary's popularity skyrockets toward To the Pain, as he has outsmarted the wily mind of the Action Jaxon. To the Pain. Kicking off the show with the Coast to Coast title contest, Warren is furious with being outsmarted just 7 days ago by his challenger. Constantly being told to stop pleasing the fans and receive their adulation, Gary fights back, showing his defiance by using the fans' support and eventually kicking out of the Overdrive. Angry with his opponent's tenacity, Warren hits his finisher again, this time winning the contest. Warren vs. Warren. Beating Gary at To The Pain, and once more in a tag team match the following week, Warren is convinced that his change of persona has led to nothing but success. With Gary trying his best to regain some lost momentum, he is victorious in a match against Johnny Fabuloso and decides to speak to the audience, sharing his views on where he currently stands in the company. Disappointed with his last 2 losses, especially his loss at To The Pain, he realizes that he has to go to the back of the line. Promising his supporters to one day capture the gold, Gary is interrupted by Warren Jaxon. Hearing Gary admit to his failures, Warren tells the world how successful he has become since turning his back on the audience, reminding Federline that he should have done the exact same thing. After all, his kind-hearted and happy-go-lucky attitude has only pushed him further away from competing for the title yet again. With Gary understanding his placement at the back of the line, he claims that he is proud of who he is and won't behave like Warren Jaxon in order to achieve success. Happy to admit to his failures, Gary takes this opportunity to introduce Warren to the next challenger for the Coast to Coast title, one half of Dirty Cash, Wazzy D. Warren is shocked to see the upbeat gangster enter the arena. With Wazzy D using the Coast to Coast as his finishing maneuver, he sees no better title to be wrapped around his waist, as he believes the gold to be named after him. Challenging Warren to a match at Supremacy, Wazzy is rejected the chance as the Action Jaxon refuses to get in the ring with a wannabe criminal. Offended by the scene and intimidated by his new challenger, Warren decides to sucker punch Gary in the face in a cowardly attempt to restore some power. Exiting the ring quicker than a hiccup, Warren refuses to look back at Wazzy D, who can't wait to step up to the plate. Brother Bother. Although rejecting Wazzy D's challenge, Warren Jaxon is furious to see Wazzy D victorious in a #1 contender's fatal 4-way match the following week. With the gangster in huge momentum, it quickly dawns on the commentary team that Wazzy D now has 2 matches for the pay-per-view Supremacy. Not only is he competing for the Coast to Coast title, but is also competing under the Dirty Cash banner, facing Empire for their previously lost tag team championships. With Wazzy scheduled for 2 title matches at the pay-per-view, it soon creates friction between himself and his partner, Corruption. Corruption wants his brother to focus more on regaining their tag team titles rather than creating a new solo success. Threatened by his challenger's potential, Jaxon decides to use this family feud to his advantage, approaching Wazzy in a backstage segment. The champion wants to ease all the tension, telling his new challenger that he actually likes what he's been doing lately. The money-spitting gestures that he does, the dancing to the hippity-hoppity beats, dude, the top rope coast to coast, from one brother to another, Warren digs it. And the fans do too. Despite Wazzy D's limitless abilities, Warren asks him the same question that he once asked Gary Federline. He asked when Wazzy will stop doing things for other people and when he will turn his back on them instead. Referencing the Dirty Cash tension, Warren guesses that Wazzy D already has. As the brotherly issues grow, Warren Jaxon is involved in a backstage interview and is asked for his thoughts on the family feud as we approach the pay-per-view. He claims that in this business, you either worry about others or you worry about yourself. He sends a message to the already conflicted Wazzy D, telling him to think about what is more important, friends or success. Dirty Cash experienced multiple losses during the lead-up to the pay-per-view, causing more irritation and miscommunication between the two brothers. Upset with the downhill momentum, Corruption suggests an ultimatum to his partner, telling him that he may have to choose between his solo and tag team career. Empire strikes front. Furious that Jaxon has driven such a wedge between a brotherhood, Corruption confronts Warren in the ring the following week, maddened that he would try and get between his friendship with Wazzy D. As a result, Corruption wants him in that ring later tonight. Frightened to accept the challenge, Warren's emotions quickly turn to excitement as he happily accepts the challenge. Surprisingly confident, he leaves the scene, clearly plotting something. With the match set, Corruption walks into his locker room later in the night and awkwardly approaches his partner, asking if he's going to be out there to support him. Folding his arms and looking away, Wazzy throws shade as he tells his partner that he won't be able to, as his solo career is far more important. Corruption is insulted and leaves with disappointment, while Wazzy almost regrets his facetious comments. The Giant is able to tackle the root of his problems as he manhandles Warren Jaxon later in the night. However, the match ends with a disappointing disqualification, as, with Corruption attempting the chokeslam, he gets beaten down by the appearing Empire. As the tag team champions attack one half of their future challengers, Wazzy's help is nowhere to be seen. Empire and Jaxon continue to ambush the Giant with delight. Finally, Wazzy D storms down the ramp and into the ring. With Corruption attempting to break free from the assault, he pushes Empire away and goes to boot Jaxon in the head, only for the champion to dodge, allowing the foot to connect to Wazzy's face. Corruption looks down at his brother in shock, irritated that he has made their situation worse. Meanwhile, Jaxon and Empire leave, happy with their work. Dirty Cash seem to have been broken, guaranteeing the three villains title retentions at Supremacy. Supremacy. On a night where Wazzy D is pressured with two huge title matches, his conflict with Corruption only adds to the stress. With the tag team titles up for grabs first, Dirty Cash enter together without their common excitement, less energetic and more irritated to be by each other's side. The tag team champions of Corey and Blake make their entrance with vast confidence, showing their opponents what trust and chemistry looks like, all while taunting their titles. Despite the issues with his partner, Wazzy uses his first match of the night to showcase his talents, hoping to build his own momentum for the coast-to-coast title match later on. From this, he refuses to make his tag to his partner, thinking he can battle for himself. This causes multiple opportunities for Empire to take control. Empire provide huge dominance to Wazzy D until he finally fights back with huge momentum. Instead of tagging in his partner, Wazzy decides to go up for the coast-to-coast, once again attempting to prove himself. As he prepares for the high-risk move, Warren Jaxon runs down the ramp and enters the ring, ready for an attack. However, Wazzy prevents the sabotage as he jumps off the turnbuckle to deliver a huge dropkick to the coast-to-coast champion. Warren's interference may have backfired, but it also causes Empire to take advantage yet again. As Wazzy talks trash to his future opponent, he fails to see his brother be stricken off the apron. Noticing Corruption in dire straits, Wazzy hopes to help his partner only to get rolled up by his opponent, allowing Empire to retain the titles. The repeated teamwork of Warren and Empire allows them to leave in happiness as they raise their titles with slight pain. With Dirty Cash disappointed in the ring, Wazzy looks to apologize to his partner for being too selfish in the contest. He looks to tap his friend on the shoulder with regret, only for Corruption to swipe it away, exiting slowly and in sadness. The stability of Dirty Cash is questioned throughout the pay-per-view, clearly affecting the mind of Wazzy D. However, the morale of Warren Jaxon is untapped, as he has his opponent right where he wants him. Entering with less energy than before, Wazzy doesn't seem focused at all for the biggest singles match of his career. With Warren Jaxon cocky and smug, he enters proud to be the champion and even prouder to have separated Dirty Cash. After a tricky start, Wozzy fires back on the man who has created tension in his friendship. Extinguishing the fire of Wozzy, Warren beats his opponent down until an emotional corruption is seen walking down the ramp. The giant stands next to the apron, staring intensely at his partner, shaking his head in disappointment. Jaxon sniggers as his plan seems to have worked to perfection. Not only has he split the team of Dirty Cash, but it now seems as though he has a giant in his corner. Calling the big man up to the apron, Warren goes to align himself with the giant, only for Corruption to stop him. Corruption performs the money-spitting hand gesture, indicating his loyalty to his best friend after all. Realizing his plan has failed, Warren walks into a comeback by Wozzy as Corruption cheers on his best friend. With Wozzy in huge momentum, he is soon distracted by the reappearing Empire, who come out to attack Corruption yet again on the outside. Wozzy refuses to repeat the actions of ignoring his partner and decides to then dive on Empire on the outside. Brawling with Empire at ringside, this allows Warren to attempt to recover and claim an easy victory by a countout. However, behind him now stands the recovered Corruption. With the official distracted by the outside chaos, Corruption grabs the throat of Warren, ready to slam him to the mat. Out of desperation, Warren kicks Corruption right in the groin, sending the giant to his knees. Warren chuckles, proud of his actions, and turns around to see the high-flying Wozzy D soar back in the ring from a springboard. However, Warren catches his opponent with a kick to the gut and hits the overdrive to end the match. Warren celebrates alongside Empire for the second time of the evening, while Dirty Cash regroup and look on with disappointment. Having an input in the Coast to Coast title match and retaining their tag titles earlier in the evening, Empire accompanied Dave Falcon to the ring in the main event, showing their extraordinary unity. With Dave Falcon putting his world title on the line against Charlie Finch, the champion seems to be relying on Empire to continue their cheating ways in order to retain his gold. The official gets angrier each time Empire attempt to get involved in the match, distracting Charlie from offense. With Finch eventually planting Dave through the announce table, he gets back in the ring as the official reaches the count of 7. However, Dave remains on the outside, only just realizing that his knee is in sudden pain. The official stops the count, and instead aids the champion on the outside while Finch is waiting in the ring. Much like earlier, this opens the opportunity for an ambush, allowing Finch to be attacked by Empire. Corey and Blake are about to hit their tag team finisher, the Thunder from Down Under, only for the referee to get back in the ring and stare right at them. Empire freeze with fear as the official is about to call for a disqualification. Deciding not to end the night with disappointment, Corey and Blake are ejected from ringside instead. Empire are outraged with the official as he follows them up the ramp, making sure that they exit. As this happens, Warren Jaxon appears in the ring and hits Charlie Finch with the overdrive. With Jaxon hiding, Dave magically recovers from his knee injury and covers Finch to retain his title. Extraordinary seem to have created another ally in Warren Jaxon, as the foursome hold all their gold at the top of the ramp, ending the pay-per-view. Extraordinary member. Dave Falcon opens up the next episode of Impetus, accompanied by his common partners of Empire and newly acquired ally in Warren Jaxon. Empire and Warren speak of their pay-per-view success and how they executed their plan to perfection. However, they refuse to take all the credit, as the master strategy was formed by the retaining world champion, Dave Falcon. Owing their success to their leader, the extraordinary members hand the microphone over to the champion. Dave gloats about his championship caliber faction, crediting himself for predicting Empire and Warren's successes. He views himself as a star maker, creating chances for those he feels deserve the spotlight, despite what the audience and company may think. After applauding Empire for their constant efforts, Dave then thanks Warren for his acceptance into the group, and speaks of how he always saw light at the end of his tunnel. Further complimenting Warren, Dave is happy to have seen him turn into an intelligent, dominant, cunning, and skillful competitor. He finishes his appreciation speech, claiming that he is proud that Warren was his first ever opponent for the world title, and is honoured to have him to be a part of the Extraordinary family. With a tear in Warren's eye, he thanks Empire and Falcon, happy to be a part of the unit. The four champions hug in the middle of the ring, solidifying themselves as a bonding partnership. With Charlie Finch interrupting the scene, he states that if the champions get any closer, they're going to have to use protection. Vowing vengeance, Finch claims that he won't let Warren Jaxon's actions at Supremacy go unpunished, and he promises to make his life a living hell. Finch continues, stating that if the team really want to embrace one another, then sooner or later, things are going to get messy. Suddenly, white slime falls from the ceiling onto our champions. Extraordinary slip and fall with little grace as Finch laughs, reminding us that this is what happens when four men love each other a little bit too much. Finch exits with the champions flailing with embarrassment. A slimed Extraordinary tried to complain to the president backstage, demanding a punishment for Finch's prank. Sam interrupts, claiming that they shouldn't be demanding anything, as not only did they ruin the main event last week, but ruined the tag team title and coast-to-coast title matches. He states that because of their decision to screw with his pay-per-view last week, he's going to screw with them and put them all in a match tonight. With the group complaining, Dave states that he isn't medically cleared to compete because of his knee injury he sustained at the pay-per-view. Happy to go along with Dave's injury, the president tells the rest of the team to clean themselves up, as they will face Charlie Finch and Dirty Cash later tonight. Extraordinary complain as Sam walks off, laughing at their humiliation. The Star Maker's troops head into battle later in the night, causing just as much mischief as they did at the pay-per-view. Using dirty tricks and a distraction by Dave Falcon to gain a victory, it allows Warren to pin and get his own vengeance on Finch. Praising his team in the backstage interview, moments after their glory, Dave states that no one can control Extraordinary. No one can stop them. No one can tell them what to do. However, Dave's speech is interrupted by promotion of next week's show. Next week, Dave Falcon will be in action, along with Warren defending his Coast to Coast Championship against Charlie Finch. Dave and his team are silenced by the announcement and then vent their frustration of being controlled. With the president, Sam Pullen, making sure that the chaotic group remain disciplined, this only infuriates the faction as they believe their talents are being excluded by their boss rather than embraced like their leader. All Distraction Jaxon. Although forming a solid partnership, Extraordinary feel they are being mistreated by their boss. Located in his locker room, Jaxon vents this frustration to his leader. However, Dave stops him, telling him to remain focused. With Empire suffering a loss earlier in the night, Dave aggressively mentors his partner, refusing to have another protege lose. He tells Jaxon to prove why he is the only coast-to-coast champion. Motivated and encouraged by his mentor, Warren agrees and exits with Dave showing his anxiety. Fueled by the Star Maker's words, it isn't enough to defend against the fury of Finch, as Warren gets hit with his opponent's finisher, the Full Effect. Warren is pinned and loses the coast-to-coast title. Finch begins to celebrate, only for Dave Falcon to sneak into the ring and subtly place Jaxon's foot under the rope. With Dave exiting, Finch continues his celebration until the official takes the title away from him. Confused and angry, Finch wonders why the official has stopped his victory and is shown the position of Warren's foot. The official hands back the title to the timekeeper's area and decides to restart the match. After a cliffhanger of a commercial break, Impetus returns to air with the Coast to Coast title back on the line and Jaxon back in control. The two battle back and forth until Finch gets the upper hand and wants to finish the match yet again. He lifts Warren up for the full effect, but the champion rakes his eyes while slipping over the back of him. The official notices Finch's pain but is oblivious to what has caused it, allowing Warren to continue offense and hit the overdrive to win and retain. The extraordinarily lucky Warren exits, realizing he barely got a victory. With Finch rubbing his eyes, he is furious at Warren's luck and constant foul play. Supreme Justice. 1 week removed from Jaxon's questionable title match ending, he gloats about retaining his title, claiming not to care what the fans think or any peers at the back may think of him. He believes that it is this mindset that led him to winning the title in the first place, and furthermore earning his place in Extraordinary. He patronizes Charlie Finch, telling him to take his advice and turn on the fans. Then, maybe one day, he too can be champion. Warren states that Charlie can drop all the buckets of slime and humiliate him all he wants, but at the end of the day, the Action Jaxon will forever be the coast-to-coast champion. Happy to end his arrogant speech, Warren is forbidden to exit due to the entrance of Wazzy D. Wazzy vents his unfinished business and frustration with Warren, claiming to have never gotten his justice for what happened at Supremacy. As a result, with Charlie Finch out of the title picture and corruption replacing him in his scheduled rematch with Dave Falcon tonight, Wazzy demands an ultimate rematch with Warren instead at Unleashed for the coast-to-coast title. With Warren and Wazzy going nose to nose, raising their tension, Charlie Finch stops the scene. Insulted, Finch tells Wazzy that he can't just pick and choose whatever champion he wants to target. He believes Wazzy's business with Warren Jaxon is over as he lost at Supremacy. However, Finch reminds us of his own business with Warren, not just being screwed out of the world title, but being screwed out of the coast-to-coast title last week. Getting in the face of Wazzy D, Finch claims that if anybody is going to dethrone Jaxon, it's him. From this, a number 1 contenders match is made official. Charlie Finch and Wazzy D will compete in hopes to become the challenger to the title at the next pay-per-view, Unleashed. Dave Falcon uses his allies to defeat the giant opponent of corruption in the main event. Before the night ends, Falcon joins his team in the ring and lists the men that he has not only beaten but made stars out of. He claims himself, after nearly a year, to be the greatest champion in wrestling history, believing that there is no man in the world that can go toe-to-toe with him. The popular and unique women's wrestler named Daria shocks everyone by interrupting Dave's arrogant speech. With the champion seemingly out of male competition, she suggests a female step up to the challenge and asks for a title match at Unleashed. With the president entering and announcing the match to be made official, Extraordinary stomp and moan in the ring. An intergender championship match has been made. Triple threatened. Falcon once again complains about his team's treatment. He orders Sam to cancel the intergender match between himself and Daria. The president decides to compromise, telling Dave that he can choose any member of Extraordinary to face Daria tonight, where if she loses, she's out of the title picture, no questions asked. With a grin on his face, Sam reveals that if she wins, she not only remains the number 1 contender at Unleashed, but Extraordinary are banned from the pay-per-view's main event. Angry with Sam's fair ruling, Dave walks out with a huff and a puff, leaving the sniggering president excited for Daria's opportunity. With Warren allocated as Daria's opponent, he approaches her in the backstage area, telling her that in just a matter of moments her dreams will be crushed before she even makes it to the pay-per-view. Daria states that she can't help but be excited, not just for her future title match, but for the match coming up next with the Action Jaxon, as the last time she heard, his action doesn't last very long. With Warren trying to defend himself as a renowned stud muffin, Daria can't wait to make Dave's little bitch her little bitch. With no fear, she slaps Warren in the face, making him exit with embarrassment. Offended by her words and actions, Warren outpowers Daria in their contest. Jaxon converts his dominance into cockiness, running his mouth a little too often, allowing Daria to recuperate and get a quick victory. Defeating the Extraordinary member and banning the faction from the match at Unleashed, will Daria be able to pin yet another champion in the future? Hoping to ensure that she doesn't, Daria's celebration gets cut short as she gets ambushed by Dave Falcon, who hits her with the Extreme Facebuster. The Star Maker gloats his superiority as he stands over his new #1 contender. Unfinished, Dave orders Warren to hit the overdrive on the female. Picking her up with a dastardly grin, Warren is close to hitting his finisher, only for Charlie Finch and Wazzy D to come out and take down the villains, leading to the Extraordinary duo retreat in fear. Daria recovers with Finch and Wazzy locking eyes in the middle of the ring, ready for their match later tonight to determine the next challenger for the Coast to Coast title. The #1 contenders match takes place in the main event with both Wazzy and Charlie battling hard, showing their desire to be the next challenger. However, they fight so hard, countering and hitting each other's moves with such impact that they cannot answer the referee's count of 10. The main event of Impetus ends without a new challenger being determined. Pick Your Poison. The classic Pick Your Poison gimmick is promoted for the next episode of Impetus. However, rather than two wrestlers choosing each other's opponents, Impetus shakes things up, involving 3 men in the action. Due to last week's equal contest between Finch and Wazzy, it is announced that both men will compete for the Coast to Coast title in a triple threat match at Unleashed. With the 3 men set to choose each other's opponents throughout the night, Warren kicks off the show to complain about everything. Warren expresses his hatred for the Pick Your Poison rule. Not only must he defend his title next week against 2 men rather than 1, but is expected to be focused on an unknown, hand-picked opponent by Charlie Finch tonight? Warren expresses his outrage with having 2 opponents as neither man won their match last week and asks why they have any right to compete for the gold. The entrance of Charlie Finch is witnessed as he remains on stage talking to the Extraordinary Complainer. Although Finch's chances of becoming champion went from 50% to 33%, he relishes the chance to prove who the better man is between himself and Wazzy D. In fact, he is even more excited to see who emerges the champion at Unleashed. He reminds Warren of the vow he made, the vow of making his life a living hell for what he did to him at Supremacy. Keeping his word, Finch picks the demonic Scar to be the poison Warren must fight. The monstrous Scar enters, raising Jaxon's stress levels to an all-time high. Warren takes punishment from Scar throughout the Pick Your Poison match, surprisingly gaining control toward the end by sitting the monster in the corner. Sniggering with bad intentions, Warren heads up to the top rope, hoping to steal Wazzy D's coast-to-coast finisher. As he jumps through the air, Scar stands up, catching his opponent in a choke and hits his finisher, the Resurrection. About to win the match, the monster gets ambushed by his current rivals, Bobby Manuel and Jerry Kane, beating him down for a disqualification. With Bobby and Jerry continuing their attack on Scar, Jaxon escapes with huge pain, clutching on to his coast-to-coast title. The Pick Your Poison stipulation continues throughout the night. With Charlie Finch defeating his hand-picked opponent by Wazzy D, we are left with one more Pick Your Poison match to witness. Who has Warren Jaxon chosen to face Wazzy D? Meeting the gangster in the backstage area, Warren threatens the Dirty Cash member, claiming that he has a huge opponent in mind. With Wazzy curious, he is threatened even further, told by the champion that he may not even make it out to the match. Looking to attack Wazzy, Jaxon looks up in fear as Corruption is then seen, backing up his partner. The Giant asks Jaxon to repeat himself. With the champion threatened, he acts extremely worried, only to grin, revealing Wazzy's huge opponent to be Corruption. Jaxon leaves with a snigger as Corruption and Wazzy D are in shock. As the Dirty Cash members are placed against one another, Wazzy D and Corruption reluctantly battle. Trading light offense and separating with caution, Warren Jaxon soon walks down the ramp with a smile as he wants a closer look into the tension that he has created. Despite Jackson's dastardly intentions, Dirty Cash decide to have a friendly contest. Throughout the match, Jaxon constantly yells on the outside, trying to pin the two brothers against each other. Later, Corruption has had enough of the outside interference and decides to lift his partner with a gorilla press, launching Wazzy D to the outside and on to the champion. Happy with their impromptu teamwork, Dirty Cash decide to have fun in destroying their enemy. Ignoring the match, Corruption hits a running power slam on Warren, then hits the Moneymaker tag team finisher with his partner. With their high adrenaline, Dirty Cash celebrate their power and unity, leading to Corruption handing the coast-to-coast title to his partner and raising his hand. However, the action is far from over. With an idea in mind, Corruption drags Jaxon's lifeless body to the corner and exits the ring. Viewing the scene with confusion, Wazzy then realizes his opportunity to hit his finisher. As Corruption walks up the ramp, with a smile, he witnesses Wazzy hit the coast-to-coast and raise the title yet again over the champion. With Wazzy D ready for the pay-per-view, the action still is far from over. Wazzy talks trash to the champion, only to be hit with a surprising full effect from the suddenly appearing Charlie Finch. Finch then raises the title quickly and runs away with Corruption charging after him. With all signs pointing to a new champion, will Warren Jaxon be able to retain his gold? Unleashed. The numbers game catches up to Warren as, although avoiding multiple attacks and flurries of offense from both challengers, the Action Jaxon falls to Charlie Finch, losing his coveted coast-to-coast title. With Empire losing their respective tag team titles in the same night, Dave Falcon is the only man who enters and exits the pay-per-view with gold. Extraordinary evaluation. Wasting little time, Warren cashes in his rematch clause for the coast-to-coast title the following week, hoping to redeem himself. However, before the rematch takes place, Dave Falcon has announced what he calls a extraordinary evaluation, placing his group in the middle of the ring and analysing what is next for his failed protégés. Dave Falcon leads his team to the ring while they look ashamed of themselves. As Empire and Warren stand without their familiar gold, they are lined up behind the Impetus champion, who lectures them for losing their respective championships. Criticizing Empire, Dave reminds them that they lost their titles to Gary Federline and Kevin Rain, a team who barely even established a name for themselves, let alone a partnership. Dave then looks at Warren with disgust, reminding him that it wasn't too long ago that he was accepted into the group. However, it wasn't too long until Warren embarrassed Extraordinary, losing his title less than 2 months after joining them. Dave looks at his team, questioning if he was wrong about them, and claims that maybe he made a mistake in this alliance. Maybe Empire aren't the best tag team in the business. Maybe Warren Jaxon was never championship material to begin with. With the 3 proteges in disappointment, Dave gloats about his own success and how he proved to be extraordinary as he retained his title against Daria last week. He boasts about his near year-long title reign, reminding all that he has beaten everybody put in front of him. Telling his partners that they will find a way to get their titles back, he orders them not to embarrass him ever again. The journey to recovery starts tonight, as Dave promises Warren that he will win back his coast-to-coast title. Unable to trust Empire in regaining their gold in the recently announced tag team title tournament, Dave announces that Warren and himself are entering the tournament too, upping the chances of having the titles back on the team by any means necessary. Dave promises that he will do whatever it takes for his team to be on top yet again. He exits with drive and focus, while his allies try their best to not be discouraged. As Warren tries to prepare for his coast-to-coast title rematch later in the evening, Empire are seen in the same locker room as him, silent and upset about their evaluation from earlier. With Dave entering and bringing the team close to him for yet another serious conversation, he tells them that the pressure placed upon them should be used to recover their titles. Perhaps his speech earlier this evening came across as harsh. Perhaps it was even a little cruel, but it was all for their benefit. Dave explains that the benefits come right now as he tells Warren to go out there and prove why he should have never lost his title in the first place. Warren is hyped up and exits, leaving Empire and Dave in confidence. Warren's chance to regain the gold comes in the main event of the evening. During the match, Jaxon seems in trouble, leading to Empire entering and walking toward the ring. Although they do nothing but watch the match from the ringside area, Finch's offense eventually gets reversed and is dumped to the outside. With Warren distracting the referee, it seems as though Empire are ready to strike, only for Falcon to run down to the ring and stop the team from advancing. Upset with his faction's tactics, Falcon sends Empire up the ramp, ejecting them from their evil intentions. Exiting and arguing with them, Dave leaves Warren to fight alone, eventually succumbing to the comeback of Charlie Finch and losing his rematch for the coast-to-coast title. As Finch celebrates, Dave re-enters the arena, aiding Warren out of the ring with disappointment. Glaring at the retaining champion, Dave shoves his protege up the ramp with little care, allowing us to ask, are the cracks of Extraordinary beginning to show? Changing priorities. The failure of Warren Jaxon's attempt to regain his gold are discussed the following week as Dave Falcon somberly talks to his protege in his locker room. Confused by his mentor's actions last week, Warren is told by Dave that he needed to prove himself, winning back the title by himself. Falcon speaks calmly to Warren, stating that last week he was angry. However, this week is a new week. This week, he tells Warren to redeem himself and not embarrass the team of Extraordinary any further as they compete in the tag team tournament, looking to regain Empire's lost gold. This episode hosts a great coast-to-coast championship match between Charlie Finch and Wazzy D. With Finch retaining once again, Jaxon watches the screen in his locker room, hoping to one day recapture his coveted belt. Then, Dave Falcon walks in with irritation, as he thought he made it very clear to Warren Jaxon what he wants his protege to prioritize. Failing to retain and regain his own gold, Dave tells Warren to not be so selfish, as now he must think about the bigger picture, advancing in the tournament. Once again, Falcon's words influence Jaxon's mindset, truly emphasizing the leadership that Falcon owns. Warren finds it hard to be motivated throughout his tag match against Captain Warrick and the returning Ricky Matthews. After much lecturing from his leader, Warren makes the tag to Falcon and aids him with some dirty tactics. Furious with the cheating, Captain Warrick charges after Jaxon, brawling with him at the ringside area. With Falcon locking in the crossface on Ricky, Dave gets rolled onto his back, allowing Ricky to score a quick win and return to Impetus with a huge and poetic victory over the world champion. Warren suffers yet another loss. Something to prove. Starting next week's show, Empire and Jaxon enter with anxiety as they follow the furious Dave Falcon to the ring. Falcon reminds all that he is the World Impetus Champion and expects respect. Refusing to believe that Extraordinary are in a downward spiral, Dave's obsession with his team's success is displayed as he refers to his team as champions regardless of their possession of the gold. He calms down, stating that his group have witnessed a horrible few weeks, starting with Empire losing their titles at Unleashed and Warren Jaxon losing his title not once but twice. Despite the disappointment with his team, he also admits defeat as he was pinned last week by the returning Ricky Matthews. The champion defends himself, stating that Ricky didn't win fairly as he stole his move and his strategy. Demanding the decision to be reversed, Dave states that this is not the end of Extraordinary. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Having high hopes that Empire will win the tag team tournament, Dave also claims that Warren Jaxon will extinguish the returning flame that is Ricky Matthews as he will mop the floor with him later tonight. Falcon's sanity begins to fade as he rambles, claiming that after tonight there will be no doubt that Extraordinary, just like his world title reign, will be, is, and always will be, forever. The music of Ricky Matthews plays throughout the arena, halting the champion's speech. After spending the past few months in a personal and intense rivalry, Ricky is excited to have a new and fresh start. He sympathizes with Dave, relating to his situation of falling into a rut. However, Ricky claims that he overcame the dark cloud above him, whereas the same dark cloud that has been following Dave and the entire Extraordinary still seems to be pissing quite hard all over them. As the faction are irritated, Ricky continues and claims that the only thing Warren will be mopping tonight is his own blood after Ricky tears his arm from its hinges. Insulted, Warren gets in the face of Ricky, threatening an attack from his allies. With Ricky about to respond, Sam Pullen enters, claiming that if there was going to be a war in the middle of the ring, then it would be a fair one. Due to Warren's desire for combat with Ricky, the president orders a match between the two to start right now. Falcon is furious at his protege for inadvertently creating an impromptu match, and it only gets worse. With Sam wanting an equal contest, Dave is further enraged as he and Empire are now banned and ejected from the match. Extraordinary exit with irritation as their road to recovery has taken an unexpected turn. Wrapped with the stresses of the unplanned match, Warren tries his best to counter Ricky's momentum. However, the pressure seems to be too much for him as Ricky soon hits the mat attack and locks in his hyperlock submission. Warren's desire to prove himself allows him to fight through the pain for a considerable amount of time. However, the pain seems to be too much to handle. About to tap out, Warren is saved by his mentor as Warren gets beaten down by Dave, causing a disqualification. Although saved by his leader, Warren is ignored by his mentor, who continues his attack on Ricky. Taunting to hit the Falcon elbow, the champion bounces off the ropes, only to get hit by the Kryptonite from the suddenly appearing Captain Warrick. Warren and Dave bail the ring, with Ricky and his tag team tournament partner standing tall. Warren's list of failures would only grow later in the night, as he fails to help Empire in their tag team tournament match. Ejected by the official due to some shady actions, Warren can no longer aid his allies on their road to recovery. As the official focuses on Warren, Empire are about to be beaten, only for Dave Falcon to intervene out of nowhere, interfering with an extreme facebuster. the Star Maker exits quickly with irritation and without detection. Thanks to their mentor and not their partner, Empire take advantage and advance in the tournament in spite of Jaxon's screw-up. Extraordinary announcement. The next episode hosts the 2 semi-final matches in the tag team tournament. Kicking off the show, the first triple threat tag team match takes place as Empire face the teams of Dirty Cash and Ricky Matthews teaming with Kipton Warrick. With the official taking a heavy hit, Dave Falcon once again saves his partners as he knocks out Ricky with a world title shot to the face. As Ricky lays unconscious, Dave awakens the official, allowing Empire to advance to the finals. With El Fuego winning their respective tournament match later in the night, the final teams are set to compete at the 1-year anniversary spectacular pay-per-view event. Attempting to rebuild his team, Dave Falcon brings his students to the ring in the final segment of the night to make an extraordinary announcement. Entering with seriousness, he states that although Extraordinary had a rough start to the tag team tournament, he has all the confidence in the world that Empire will get the job done at the year anniversary show. While Warren stands in silence, Empire gloat about their mentor, stating that if it wasn't for his support and pressure, then they wouldn't be competing for the gold. Dave shares his love with Blake and Corey, stating that after they win back their titles at the pay-per-view, they will all focus on Warren's journey on reclaiming his coast-to-coast title. Staring at his protege with a demeaning glare, he believes that once the coast-to-coast title returns back to Jaxon, then and only then will his team truly be extraordinary. Making his intentions very clear, Dave is interrupted once again by Ricky Matthews. After the massive headache Dave Falcon gave him earlier in the night, Ricky couldn't help but notice something. He realizes that while Extraordinary have plans for the tag team titles and coast-to-coast title, it seems as though there are no plans in mind for the World Impetus title. Ricky recalls that it wasn't too long ago where he earned the right to face Dave for the world title. However, a pesky little bastard named Dylan Dark derailed those plans. After all he's been through over the last few months, he knows that he deserves and can beat Dave for the World Impetus Championship. Ricky challenges Dave at the 1-year anniversary spectacular pay-per-view with the title on the line to see how truly extraordinary Dave Falcon really is. Dave waits a while, seeming to decline the challenge. However, he looks at his inspired proteges and decides to accept. Dave tells Ricky that his fairy tale story will not have a happy ending, as he will continue his year-long title reign, with Extraordinary reigning supreme over the company yet again. With the match set, an extraordinary change awaits us. You talk too much. The Go Home Impetus promotes the traditional press conference between the challenger, Ricky Matthews, and the champion, Dave Falcon. Before the opponents meet later in the night, the show opens with Warren Jaxon facing Kipton Warrick. Countering his opponent's cocky persona, Warren attains a sneaky win by countering Kipton's finishing move, the Kiptonite, and pulling the tights. While Warren exits and cackles at his cheap win, he witnesses Kipton complain to the referee about the dirty act. Refusing to accept defeat, Kipton storms out of the ring and charges after his opponent for revenge. Jaxon gets caught and chucked back into the ring, being set up once again for the Kiptonite. However, the vengeful opponent gets ambushed by Empire and Dave Falcon, once again saving Warren from embarrassment. Dave leads the attack, but not for too long, as El Fuego and Ricky Matthews rush to the ring to even the odds. As Extraordinary retreat from their pay-per-view opponents, they exit with cockiness as their challengers are ready for a future victory. Later in the night, the villainous group is seen walking through the hallway, actually proud of their previous actions. Despite saving his team yet again, Dave actually compliments his group, elated that Extraordinary have proven to still be on top. However, they get stopped in their tracks by a bothered president, Sam Pullen. The boss asks them what they think they're doing. With Dave about to speak, Warren cuts his leader off in order to confront his boss. Warren states that their previous actions showed everybody just who the hell they are. It reminded everyone that Dave Falcon is the greatest champion in the business. It reminded everybody that Empire are the future tag team champions. And it reminded everybody that Warren Jaxon is the rightful coast-to-coast champion. With this in mind, Jaxon asks Sam why he has been left out of competing for the gold at the pay-per-view. Sam simply claims that Warren had his chance to get the gold back and didn't succeed. If Extraordinary want to show just how great they truly are, then they will compete tonight as a team. With Dave reminding Sam of the press conference, the president announces that the night will not end on that event. Instead, right after the press conference, Dave and his team will fight Captain Warrick, El Fuego, and Ricky Matthews in the main event. Sam leaves with Extraordinary in anger, almost blaming Warren for the result. The press conference allows Ricky to vent his months of emotions, hopefully leading to his greatest victory at the 1-year anniversary spectacular. He states that for nearly a year, Impetus has had to deal with the cancer that has been Dave Falcon, and now is time for a new beginning. After telling the old man to step aside, Ricky is approached by Extraordinary midway through the press conference. With the challenger threatened, it seems as though we are about to experience another ambush. However, El Fuego and Captain Warrick even the numbers as they appear to stand up for Ricky. With both teams ready to throw down, Sam refuses to have his press conference end in chaos. He announces that the 8-man tag team match will start right now. Returning from a commercial break, Extraordinary soon take El Fuego and Ricky Matthews out of the equation, leaving Kipton to fend for himself. Shocking everyone, Kipton is somehow able to compete against the odds, hoping to defeat Warren with the Kiptonite. As Kipton scales through the air, Falcon reappears and shoves his partner out of the way, allowing him to superkick the oncoming face of Kipton. Halting the comedian's momentum, Extraordinary hit all of their finishing moves on the remaining opponent. With their enemies perished, Extraordinary attain a victory, with Warren pinning Kipton. Extraordinary leave with clarity, showing their dominance heading into the 1-year anniversary spectacular. With Kipton out cold, Ricky and El Fuego aid their partner with weakness, in hopes that next week provides a different result. The 1-year anniversary spectacular. As Empire enter the finals of the tag team title tournament against El Fuego, the pressure is on for Dave Falcon's henchmen, as they attempt to rejoin him as current champions. With Empire unable to withstand El Fuego's heat, Warren Jaxon enters slowly, distracting the Mexican warriors as their momentum soars. Before Empire can take advantage of the distraction, Captain Warrick ambushes Jaxon on stage, chasing him away from the ring. From this, El Fuego take advantage and win with their fireball finisher, crowning themselves the new tag team champions. Moments after their defeat, the proteges are seen with sadness in their locker room as Dave Falcon sits with disappointment. He calmly vents his frustration to the team, stating that not only have they failed to regain the tag titles, but they have failed him, making his job a whole lot harder tonight as he now must concentrate even more to retain his own gold. He glares at Empire and stands above Warren with fury. With the team's reputation at an all-time low, Dave states that he will have to face Ricky Matthews tonight with no help and no support, proving himself to be the greatest champion of not only the year, but the decade. Dave begins to prepare for his match, but looks back, telling his team to get out of his locker room. With their heads hung low, Empire and Jaxon leave with disappointment. The downfall of Extraordinary didn't do Dave Falcon any favours, as, after exactly 365 days, his world title reign came to a flickering end as he lost to the ever-resilient Ricky Matthews. Once a dominant faction in the world of wrestling, Extraordinary exit the 1-year anniversary spectacular without any piece of gold. War with Warrick. Losing his most valuable item, Dave Falcon hopes to regain the World Impetus title against Ricky Matthews in a rematch. However, due to the interference of Captain Warrick, Extraordinary are unable to help their mentor regain the gold. Becoming an emotional mess after his 2 losses to Ricky Matthews, Dave Falcon hopes to regain what little power he has left by destroying Captain Warrick in a vicious and vengeful beatdown. Weeks later, the tide of Impetus has changed, as not only is Ricky Matthews the World Impetus Champion, but the up-and-coming rebel known as Greg Gordo has emerged as the next challenger by defeating Dave Falcon himself. Obsessed with remaining on top, Falcon attacks the new rivals. The veteran orders his unit to come and aid him in his assault, only they do not appear. Confused as to where his allies are, Dave witnesses his protégés being chucked out on the stage in pain. Further puzzled, Dave observes the scene as Captain Warrick returns on stage, revealing himself as their attacker. With a taped-up head, nothing stops Kipton from running to the ring and hitting Dave with the Kryptonite to end the show. The rivalry between Captain Warrick and Extraordinary hopes to be settled at Impulse 2. The team of Captain Warrick and El Fuego attempt to stomp out the villains once and for all in a tag team enforcement match. With Warren Jaxon by his side, Dave Falcon explains the rules of the unique match to his assailants in a backstage segment. He explains that one member of each team competes in the ring with their partners on the outside. With no tags involved, one member from each team must fight until they are eliminated. Once all men are eliminated, the remaining team wins. With Extraordinary confident with their 3-on-4 advantage, Kipton and El Fuego surprise the evil group as they announce their 4th partner to be none other than the legendary Viper Nip. The superhero of the adrenaline days and biggest rival to Dave Falcon returns, aligning himself with our heroes and ready for the tag team enforcement match. Impulse 2. The debut of the enforcement match and Viper Nip's return takes place at Impulse 2. However, the excitement is perished due to the dirty actions of Extraordinary, who rebuild their goals in success with a victory over Team Warrick. Priorities. As Extraordinary seem to be at their most dominant now, their tensions are soon raised as both Warren and Dave have an opportunity to regain their respective titles. With a triple threat match announced at the next pay-per-view, Reign Supreme, Dave Falcon, Ricky Matthews and Greg Gordo must go through separate opponents in order to compete for the world title. As Greg Gordo faces the returning Viper Nip and Ricky Matthews faces his old foe in Dylan Dark, Dave Falcon must face his own partner of Warren Jaxon in hopes to regain his gold. Realizing the chance for an easy victory, Sam Pullen puts a spanner in the works, as Warren's challenger status for the coast-to-coast title is also on the line in the process, creating drama between the two teammates. Throughout the night, the alliance between the two is questioned, making us wonder what Warren and Dave are valuing the most, their partnership or their power. The match between the two starts off with resistance, showing both men's desire to be champion, yet not wanting to rid their ally of their opportunities. Eventually, Dave orders respect and demands Warren to simply lay down. Warren does so, but quickly kicks out, refusing to end his coast-to-coast title goals. With Dave shocked, Warren challenges his mentor to a simple one-on-one wrestling match. Dave obliges, exchanging holds and reversals until striking his partner down with a cheap shot. Dave stares intensely at his flawed protege, yelling at him and ordering him to do the right thing. As tensions rise between the two, Empire come out to lower the friction between their two partners. Warren tries to brawl with his mentor, but is held back by Corey and Blake. As the extraordinary faction seems to be melting down, Empire suddenly push Dave down to the floor, seemingly turning on their leader. With the match ending in yet another extraordinary disqualification, Dave is enraged with his team until he suddenly realized he just won by disqualification. The unit celebrate together, fooling everyone. Despite his desire to regain the Coast to Coast title, Warren Jaxon did exactly what was best for his mentor as Dave Falcon progresses to the triple threat match at Reign Supreme. Leading up to the pay-per-view, Dave Falcon tries his best to convince his opponents, the audience, and even Sam Pullen himself that the president is in his back pocket. Reign Supreme. Sam Pullen makes himself the special guest referee at this pay-per-view in hopes to show his unbiased opinions. After much drama, Ricky retains with high controversy. However, during the contest, Dave Falcon fractures his knee, leading to a real-life injury. Star Breaker. With the original plans set to have Dave turning his back on the Extraordinary members, the knee injury forced plans to be changed and altered into a different direction. As a new idea had to be enforced, Dave enters the following week with a knee brace and crutches, followed by his disciples. He talks about the knee injury he suffered at Reign Supreme, and how it will take 4 months to heal it back up to normal strength. He continues his speech, stating that he hates to know that he won't be able to compete for the World Impetus title, and hates to know that he won't be able to make the world a better place by becoming the champion yet again. He will be damned if he is to see anyone not extraordinary become world champion, and, as a result, he gives Warren Jaxon his blessing to take his place. With Warren delighted and stunned, Dave appreciates his protege's patience and sacrifices he has made, all to not only benefit Falcon, but the team. The mentor states that he knows Warren can climb his way up the ladder and achieve the greatness that Dave has set up for him. With the team now delighted, Dave can't wait to come back and see Warren as the new world champion. As Falcon's career is ready to take a temporary leave of absence, the team raise each other's hands. With Empire leaving, allowing their leader a moment to thank the audience, Warren begins to follow, only to turn around and kick Dave's knee out from underneath him. Empire jump back in the ring instantly, yelling at Warren only to snigger at their fallen and broken mentor. Allowing the attack to continue, Empire are ordered by Warren to grab 2 steel chairs. Handing a chair over to Warren, Empire places the other under Dave's knee. Warren hits the concerto to Dave's busted leg, making him writhe in pain. The protege is far from done, as he locks in the Indian Deathlock submission move, causing even further damage to his mentor's knee. Warren and Empire smirk as they exit, witnessing doctors aid the former ally. Performing a mutiny on his mentor, Warren Jaxon has sent shockwaves throughout the Impetus body. However, the stunning acts continue later in the night. After Ricky Matthews and Vipernip have a belter of a main event, the World Impetus Champion lays on the mat with his opponent in exhaustion. The two eventually raise to their feet, realizing the bar-raising match that they've just had. About to celebrate his win over the legend, Ricky is disrupted by the music of Warren Jaxon. Appearing with Empire, Warren enters with seriousness, holding the same mangled chair that he used on Dave Falcon earlier this evening. As he gets in the ring, Ricky prepares to defend himself as the Extraordinary members approach him. Almost face to face with the champion, Warren looks at the chair and decides to throw it to the mat. With the referee still standing to the side, waiting to hand the title over to the champion, Warren snatches the gold and raises it, ending the show and indicating his thirst for the championship. Extraordinary's Excommunication. 7 days after the 2 most controversial, explosive and impactful scenes, Warren enters the arena to explain his extraordinary actions. He claims that Dave was holding the team back from experiencing their true potential, always focused on himself and regaining his own success. What started as a program to advertise underrated talent known as Empire and Warren Jaxon, Extraordinary soon became a machine that was designed to protect the leader, making the protégés perform the dirty work for the broken down veteran. After witnessing this selfish act unfold for months, Warren claims that he refuses to stand to the side anymore, no longer waiting for his opportunity. Although this being the main reason why he and Empire assaulted Dave Falcon last week, Warren claims that there is a less obvious reason. What would have been a perfect strategy and segue into creating more of a star out of Warren Jaxon turned into a disappointing, sad and pathetic attempt from a washed up, overrated, past his prime loser trying so desperately to get a second shot at being on top. Jaxon feels that the torch should have been passed to him the moment Dave's world title reign ended and blames Dave's selfishness for not letting that happen. With Dave ignoring his team and vowing to be the champion after his injury, Warren found this to be a disgrace. As a result, he and Empire destroyed Dave's chances of coming back, leaving him the true leader of Extraordinary and the next world champion. Ricky Matthews interrupts the scene and asks why Warren feels he is the #1 contender. After ambushing Falcon? After interrupting his victory against Viper last week? After raising a title that doesn't even belong to him? Ricky makes it clear that Warren's actions may have been shocking, but it gives him no right to announce himself as the next challenger to the title. Warren agrees, announcing that he has a better reason as to why he's announcing himself as the next challenger. The reason for this is that Ricky has never beaten him for a title. Warren reminds Ricky of the Rebellion pay-per-view, the night where he won the Coast to Coast title by beating him. Warren vows that at Pressure, he will do the same, only this time for the Impetus Championship. Then Viper comes out, mocking Warren, angering him to where Ricky stops the banter. With Ricky's previous pay-per-view wins ending in dramatic fashion, he claims that his match with Viper last week has only made him more motivated to show what kind of champion he truly is. Driven to prove his championship status, Ricky ignores the cliched idea of Viper versus Warren to determine the #1 contender, and instead challenges both of them to a triple threat tonight, where the only way for them to become the challenger is to pin him. The triple threat match takes place in the main event, where whoever pins the champion becomes the new #1 contender. That is, if Ricky doesn't beat them first. With Jaxon in pain and at the side of the ring, Viper is close to tapping out to Ricky's hyperlock submission. With the legend's hand about to slap the mat, Warren holds it, preventing the match from ending. Kicking Ricky in the face and breaking the hold, Warren hits the overdrive on the champion to cover him for the win. With Warren once again pinning Ricky Matthews, he promises to do the same at Pressure, as he is now the new challenger for the World Impetus title. Past, present, future? The press conference is used once again to promote the title match at the following pay-per-view, Pressure. After introducing the participants, Sam is ready to open all questions to the challenger and the champion. Asked how he plans to defeat the champion next week, Warren claims that he will become the champion exactly how he became the Coast to Coast champion and exactly how he became the #1 contender, by pinning Ricky Matthews in the middle of the ring. With Ricky shaking his head at his opponent's outlook, Warren notices this and asks the champion for a rebuttal. Ricky responds, stating that Warren seems to be focused on everything except for what's important. Viewing his past championship reign as some sort of advantage and focused on outdoing his former mentor is only adding to the stress and, dare he say, pressure heading into the pay-per-view. The champion tells Warren that he needs to worry less about the past and think about one thing only, and that is the champion himself. Asked why he doesn't seem worried about Warren, Ricky disputes, claiming that he is indeed taking the skills of his opponent seriously. Despite being aware of how good he is, Ricky claims that if Warren's going to hang on to the victory from over a year ago, a time where Ricky was a completely different competitor, then he sees no threat from his ignorant challenger. Ricky humbly claims that he wasn't ready for the Coast to Coast title last year, while Warren Jaxon was. However, 1 year later, Ricky is the world champion, the most technically sound and durable competitor within recent memory. Meanwhile, Jaxon's glory days have come and gone. With that said, there is a little bit of hope left, a little bit more magic in the tank that Warren could use to pull off a victory. However, Ricky tells Warren that it's going to take a little more than taking out an already injured old man to hold this title. After witnessing the heroic speech of the champion, Warren talks with a smirk, claiming that he has only ever competed for the title once. A match that took place at the first ever pay-per-view of Impetus, and a match that was against Dave Falcon himself. After what he eventually did to his mentor, Warren claims that at pressure, he will do the same thing to Ricky in one night, letting everybody know that he was the true world champion back then, and is the true world champion now. Pressure. Preparing for the second world title match of his career, Warren is seen sitting in his locker room with intense focus. He gets approached and hugged by Empire, who ask what the plan is for tonight, only to be confused when told not to worry. Warren tells them that they have caused a lot of chaos over the last few weeks, especially by getting rid of Dave Falcon. He reminds them that the reason they eliminated Dave was to prove that they can achieve success without someone's help. So, the only time he wants Empire out there tonight is after he defeats Ricky Matthews and becomes the new World Impetus Champion. Empire are cautious with Warren's decision, but decide to embrace his passion to perform by himself. They hug Warren yet again and leave, letting the challenger focus. The main event takes place with Warren working on Ricky's leg throughout the match, referencing his ambush on Dave Falcon. With Ricky in a huge amount of pain, Jaxon continues his poetry as he locks in the Indian Deathlock submission, putting Ricky through grief. After dealing with the pain for a while and unable to reach the ropes, the champion refuses to tap and seems to be slipping into unconsciousness. With the referee raising Ricky's hand twice, it drops a third time, only for Ricky to keep the hand inches from the floor. However, with Ricky's hand remaining millimeters in the air, Warren believes he's won the match and the title. Warren preemptively lets go of the hold and celebrates with joy, only for the party to be stopped by the official who explains the situation. Warren is furious that the match isn't over, and after witnessing Ricky still in pain, he decides to advance on the champion out of desperation. However, Ricky uses this moment to roll up his opponent into a sudden pin, only for Warren to kick out and pounce on Ricky, throwing childish strikes to the flawed champion. Losing his patience and focus, Warren heads up to the top rope, looking to elbow drop the injured leg of his opponent. However, Ricky moves, allowing Warren to splat to the mat. Recovering, Ricky reverses Warren's oncoming and desperate strikes, hitting his comeback with fatigue. With the champion now in huge momentum, he goes for the mat attack, but fails due to his leg blowing out. With the opponents separated, Warren charges for what could be the last opportunity to win the title, only to be locked in the hyperlock and finally tapping out. Ricky Matthews once again proves his world championship status, battling through immense pain and yet still retaining his title. During Ricky's recovery and receiving of his gold, Warren complains to the referee, demanding that the title should have been handed over to him. Ricky eventually stands and approaches his complaining challenger. Breaking up the argument between the opponent and the official, Ricky decides to offer a handshake. Insulted with the gesture, Warren stares at Ricky's hand and goes to shake it, but slaps it, walking off with anger. Warren leaves feeling victimized while Ricky celebrates. Exiting in defeat, it is mentioned by the commentators that Warren didn't rely on Empire during the match. This, plus his submission not being countered, allows the commentators to give props to the challenger. Although his attitude remains arrogant and selfish, the fact that he was able to deliver such a huge amount of pain and dominance to the champion shows the high standard Warren has created for himself. However, Ricky's heart, determination and tenacity was too strong for Warren's ways. The Refusal. With a bandaged knee, Ricky enters the following week in high spirits, as he states that pressure was full of shocking moments that changed a lot of people's careers. Ricky references all the matches with poetic fashion, ending it with Warren Jaxon stating how he almost walked out with the title. However, only one man left the champion, and it was him. Ricky gives Warren credit as he put up a huge fight and performed an almost perfect strategy. Although a controversial finish, and although out here a bandaged man, he couldn't be prouder. Not just proud of himself, but of Warren Jaxon, who put up one hell of a fight. Ricky claims that he showed last week what lengths he will go to stay as the champion, and plans on doing the same thing tonight as he faces Greg Williams for the gold. Ready to move on with his title reign, Warren Jaxon enters, furious to see the pages turn so quickly. Entering alone, Warren gets right in the ring and in the champion's face, complaining about his loss, claiming that he should be the champion as he made Ricky pass out in the Indian Deathlock. Warren points in Ricky's face, demanding a rematch for the gold later tonight. Crediting Warren yet again for his efforts last week, Ricky can't give him a match tonight. Not because he doesn't want to, but states that Greg Williams needs a fair, one-on-one battle for the title, just like Warren did last week. However, after he leaves as the champion tonight, he offers Warren a title match whenever he likes. As the champion makes a fair and respectful suggestion, he once again offers a handshake to accept a deal. After Ricky's hand remains in the air once again, he advises Warren to do what he didn't do last week and even a year ago at Rebellion. He advises Warren to show the champion some respect. Before Warren shows signs of respect, Empire run to the ring, allowing Ricky to get beaten down by a 3-on-1 assault. With Ricky taken down, Warren does what he envisioned at the pay-per-view and hits the elbow drop off the top rope, this time connecting with the champion's leg. With Ricky in familiar pain, Warren orders Empire to get 2 chairs, reminiscent of the Dave Falcon attack. Warren goes to concerto Ricky's knee, only for Greg Williams to burst out and defend the champion. With extraordinary bailing, Greg is ready for a fight as his future opponent recovers. Due to Sam's previously revealed hatred for Greg Williams, he has a meeting with Extraordinary later in the night. The trio assume that they will be making an impact in the main event. However, the president rejects the idea, telling them to stay out of the match as he doesn't want to give Greg any more excuses to complain about his unfair treatment. With Warren trying to argue, he is told that if he doesn't stay out of the match, his world title rematch disappears. Extraordinary may stay out of the main event, but it doesn't mean the show ends without chaos. With Greg Williams battling hard for the world title, he eventually triumphs over Ricky Matthews, becoming the new world champion. Greg instantly calls out his boss, demanding Sam to show his new champion some respect. However, Greg's victory ends abruptly as he turns around to see the gigantic Corruption appear out of nowhere and boot him right in the face. After hitting the new champion with a chokeslam, Corruption stands over Greg, with Sam applauding him by his side. Three's the crowd. With Sam Pullen starting next week's show with Corruption, he explains his adrenaline ambitions, declaring his giant to be the deserving champion. Ricky Matthews interrupts the speech, reminding Sam and Corruption that he is the former champion and, as a result, refuses to allow Corruption to be the next challenger just because he and Sam go way back to their adrenaline days. About to make an announcement in regards to Ricky's rematch, Sam is stopped by the appearance of Warren Jaxon. Followed by Empire, Warren storms to the ring and complains to the president, claiming that a world title match was promised to him by Sam last week, stating that if he stayed out of the main event, then he would get his rematch for the title. Sam laughs, stating that neither Ricky or Warren have to worry about their title shots going up in smoke. Corruption's days of being world champion are soon, but not yet. The reason for this is because both Ricky and Warren do indeed have rights to compete for Greg Williams' title, and will do so right here tonight in a triple threat match. With the huge main event made official, Sam can't wait to find out if Ricky is still his main guy, if Greg can play the role of a world champion, and, more importantly, if Warren's losses have been flukes. All three competitors battle hard in the triple threat match, leading to Warren once again relying on the Indian Deathlock to provide damage. Greg goes through huge torture and is close to tapping out until Ricky flies off the turnbuckle, breaking the hold. Momentum continues to switch between the three, only for Greg to lock in the triangle chokehold, this time on Warren. With Warren barely touching the ropes with his foot, Greg pulls him back to the middle of the ring, making him tap out with Ricky too late to break the hold. Greg retains with Warren's luck at an all-time low. Ordeal Breaker. Next week, Extraordinary's string of bad luck seems to continue as Empire compete in a number one contenders tag team turmoil match, only to lose in quick fashion. Later in the night, Warren is stressed in his locker room along with a recovering Empire who try to calm him down. He paces with madness, asking where his damn interviewer is. With an interviewer quickly approaching, Warren asks where the hell they have been, as he demanded this interview hours ago. The interviewer apologizes and asks what Warren wanted to talk about. Warren states that last week was totally unfair, as he should have left with the title. Not only did he have a perfect game plan, not only did he have his friends by his side, but he broke Greg's hold. Warren complains that his foot was on the ropes, and if Impetus had better officials, he'd be standing here the champion. Empire agree, stating that if Impetus had better officials, they wouldn't have lost the tag team turmoil match moments ago. The interviewer asks Warren and Empire what they will do now that the regeneration of Extraordinary has failed. The team get mad and tell the interviewer to get the hell out, refusing to hear those insulting words. As Warren's title dreams seem to be fading, he is blessed with one more shot at the gold later in the night, due to the repeated vindictive ways of Sam pulling toward Greg Williams. With last week's triple threat match going so well, and seeing as Greg will accept any and all challenges, Sam has decided to up the ante. Tonight, Greg will do battle against Ricky Matthews and Warren Jaxon yet again for the World Impetus title. Only this time, in a gauntlet match. That's right, Greg must defend the title multiple times tonight, and who knows, maybe Greg will prove himself. After Greg survives another challenging victory over Ricky Matthews, he is yet to raise his title as another challenger is approaching. Before Greg can breathe, Warren Jaxon appears instantly and attacks him. With Ricky eliminated from the ring and Greg eventually standing, the bell rings with Warren looking to end the second match early, attempting to hit the overdrive on Greg. However, the champion reverses, striking Warren down and resuming the gauntlet. Having an intense battle and having his leg targeted, the champion is able to lock in his own submission, battling through the injury. With Warren failing to reach the ropes with his feet, the official gets close to him, asking if he wants to quit. As Warren refrains from tapping, Empire run down to the ring. Corey pulls Warren's leg onto the ropes while Blake distracts the referee. Thanks to Empire's shenanigans, the official sees that Warren has indeed made it to the ropes and orders Greg to break the hold. Before Empire are able to add further damages and changes to the match, the returning Ricky Matthews eliminates the two from interfering anymore. As Empire get physically ejected from the match, Greg is distracted by all the ruckus. Taking advantage, Warren goes for the overdrive on the champion, only for it to be reversed into a Gordo cutter. The champion pins and retains his title for the second time of the evening, with Warren losing his last chance at the gold. Despite Warren's opportunities at the gold seemingly finished, the same cannot be said for the gauntlet match. Adrenaline then enter to beat everybody up involved in the match. With Warren, Ricky and Empire disposed to the outside, Greg is attacked in the ring by the Infliction, the tag team entity of Adrenaline. Sam tells all that the gauntlet is far from over, as there is one more challenger in the match, none other than Corruption. Sam demands the referee, who hid from the violence, to get back in the ring and ring the bell, with Corruption covering the champion. Despite his resilience, the fatigued Greg cannot overcome the giant. Greg's 2-week title reign comes to an end. The Rebound. After reforming his Adrenaline team and crowning a Titanic champion, Sam enters the following week accompanied by the Giant and the Infliction. Proud of the actions he has performed, Sam then announces Corruption's first opponent for the title at Relentless. Calling Corruption by his Adrenaline name, Titanic, Sam announces that the Giant champion will defend the title against a man that, admittedly, deserves a rematch for the gold. A man that hasn't been heard, and a man that hasn't been able to show his full potential. A man who has yet to convince the president of his talents due to his own actions. Seemingly referring to Greg Williams, Sam announces that Corruption will defend his title at Relentless against Warren Jaxon. After a clearly unpopular announcement, Sam exits with his unit in cockiness. Later, with the world title match promoted for the pay-per-view, Sam is walking backstage by himself as he talks on his phone. Approached by Warren Jaxon himself, Sam remains on his phone call and asks him what he wants, hoping to make the interaction quick. Warren claims that he just wanted to thank Sam for the opportunity at the pay-per-view. Sam barely cares and tries to walk on, only for a timid Warren to stop him multiple times. As Warren lingers around his busy boss, Sam gets frustrated and raises his voice, letting Warren know that it is no problem at all. Sam tries to leave the awkward scene, only to be stopped as Warren holds his arm, begging to differ. With Sam confused, Warren claims that although he appreciates the match, he won't be allowing Corruption to have a Titanic title reign. Now interested, Sam scoffs and hangs up the phone, asking what Warren is trying to imply. Empire then arrive on the scene, backing up their ally. Sam sniggers, with the Infliction and Corruption appearing behind him. As both factions stare with intensity, Corruption gets in Warren's face and wishes him good luck, needing it in order to not be destroyed at Relentless. Warren shakes Corruption's hand, trying not to reveal his pain of the Giant's grip. Adrenaline leave with Extraordinary worried. The episode continues and views Vipernip warming up for his Adrenaline main event against Corruption. The superhero gets approached by an interviewer and is about to be asked of his emotions, only for Warren Jaxon to interrupt. Trying to regain some power, Warren belittles the old-timer, only for the legend to reply. Vipernip suggests that Warren leave before he Viper busts his ass all the way through the whole damn arena. Warren sniggers at the legend's confidence and reminds him of the last time an Adrenaline star tried to step over him. Reminding us of his previous interaction with Dave Falcon, Warren poses the question, which Adrenaline star will Warren target next? Corruption or Vipernip? Warren leaves with Vipernip in deep thought. Despite his interactions with the main event competitors, Warren is nowhere to be seen during the Corruption vs Vipernip match. After a dominant victory over the legend, Corruption and Adrenaline celebrate with cockiness, only to be ambushed by the arrival of Ricky Matthews and Greg Williams. Meeting Vipernip at the bottom of the ramp, the heroes send the villains out of the ring, bailing from the attack. Ending the show on top, Greg, Ricky and Vipernip have sent a message to Adrenaline. However, Warren remains in the shadows as his world title match approaches. Making a statement. Due to the actions of the heroes, a 6-man tag team match is announced the following week, putting Vipernip, Ricky Matthews and Greg Williams against Adrenaline. During the episode, Extraordinary are casually talking in their locker room, only for the atmosphere to reach an intense level, with Greg Williams bursting through the door, furious at the threesome. As Greg asks what the hell they think they're doing, Warren is in confusion and irritation, claiming to have done nothing on the previous episode. Greg agrees with him, claiming that that's the problem. Warren did absolutely nothing, and he just allowed Adrenaline to try and take over the show yet again. With Warren asking what he was supposed to do, Greg replies instantly, telling him that he should have made a statement. With this title match of his only 2 weeks away, Warren had the chance to show Sam and Corruption exactly who they were dealing with at Relentless. Only, he didn't take the chance, and now is walking into the pay-per-view with no threat whatsoever. He tells Warren that, whether he wants to admit it or not, Sam put him in the match to keep Greg out of it, and after doing nothing last week, Sam further believes that Warren is simply no match for Corruption. With Warren disputing, Greg orders to be proven wrong as he kicks over a chair and gets in Warren's face, telling him to make a statement. Greg leaves with Warren and Empire in anger. We later return to the Extraordinary locker room, where Warren is sitting in deep thought while Empire slowly pace behind him, thinking about the words from Greg earlier. Warren mutters to himself, asking who Greg thinks he is and telling him what to do. Corey replies, stating that maybe Greg has a point. With Warren offended and Blake now worried, Corey explains. He says that the whole point of Extraordinary version 2 was to reclaim their spots in the company and to never take no for an answer. A little reserved, Blake agrees, claiming that, as of right now, Adrenaline have no reason to believe that Corruption won't leave without the title at the pay-per-view. Empire believe that they made an impact by taking out Dave Falcon, and then think that they need to create a similar impact as they head into Relentless. Understanding their point, Warren says that making such a statement isn't actually that easy, as he doesn't want to get on the bad side of Sam anymore, referring to Greg Williams for evidence as to why. What happens if he fights against Sam's system? He wins the title, only for it to be swiped away from him instantly? Conflicted, Warren says that he needs time to think alone and asks Empire to leave the locker room, stressing about the game plan. As the intensity of the 6-man main event gets dangerously high, the chaos gets too much for both teams as it leads to a disqualification with all 6 men brawling in the ring. Adrenaline claim control of offense and throw Ricky, Greg and Vipernip to the outside, filling their boss with joy. As Corruption and the Infliction laugh at their adversaries, Sam talks trash to his fallen opponents. However, he and his team fail to notice that Extraordinary have jumped in the ring, ready to attack. The Infliction and Corruption turn around to get assaulted by Extraordinary. Warren hits Corruption in the balls, and Empire smack Devin and Travis with kendo sticks. After laughing at his foes, Sam turns around in hopes to look at his dominant team, only to see them floored by the hands of Extraordinary. Standing over the villains and making a much-needed statement, Warren and Empire are confronted by the president in the ring, asking what the hell they think they're doing. After shouting with fury, the boss slowly notices that Greg, Ricky, and Vipernip have returned in the ring, standing behind him. The president is now outnumbered 6-1. As they all stalk the scared president, all hope is lost for Sam as his ass is about to be kicked. However, Extraordinary strike down the heroes too. With Sam shocked and all the opponents laid out, Extraordinary exit and have made a huge statement, letting Sam know that they are all in this for themselves. Upstaged. The next episode shows Warren and his team in their locker room again, talking highly about their actions from last week. With the president walking in with a curious smile, Warren tries his best to seem professional, greeting the boss. Sam tells him to drop the act, as he already did it last week when he and his team made their point very clear. Warren tells Sam that his actions last week were to purely show that he will be a threat for corruption at Relentless, and he will not be a pawn in his game of chess. Sam chuckles, claiming that Warren nor anybody else can be a threat to Titanic. He tells the challenger that he's lucky to be kept away from Titanic until the press conference tonight, and promises that, in more ways than one, Adrenaline will make their own statement tonight. About to leave, the boss tells Warren that he will regret his actions, only for Warren to retort. Warren may regret his actions, but wants Sam to know that Greg Williams isn't the only one that can cause chaos around here. Sam leaves with irritation, as Extraordinary are in cockiness. Warren's promise of chaos is delivered as he interferes in the Ricky Matthews vs. Travis match later in the night. Hoping to end the match with a countout, the Infliction exit up the ramp, refusing to take part in the match any longer. Ricky interrupts the official's count, attempting to exit the ring as he refuses to see his match end so abruptly. However, the hero is denied the chance to exit as he is held back by the official. With the official's back turned, the Infliction are attacked by Warren Jaxon on stage. Devin is thrown to the side and Travis is soon hit with the overdrive. With the official still distracted with Ricky, Warren throws Travis back into the ring, allowing Ricky to hit the mat attack and win. Acknowledging Warren's actions, Ricky celebrates, almost impressed with Jackson's input. Aiding Ricky in his win against Travis, Warren Jaxon adds to his anti-adrenaline ways by interfering in Greg's respective match against Devin. With Devin in trouble in the later part of the match, Greg bounces off the ropes to deliver more offense, only to be tripped up by the reappearing Travis, returning the favor as his partner helped him earlier. Refusing to let the match change, Greg attacks Travis on the outside, eliminating any more distractions. With the official approaching Greg on the outside, he orders him to get back in the ring. Meanwhile, in the ring, Devin is preparing to blindside his opponent, only to be attacked by Warren Jaxon and hit with the overdrive. With Warren running away from yet another hit and run, Greg looks at his fallen opponent, realizing what has just happened. As the official remains unaware of the interference, Greg follows up with the triangle chokehold, making Devin tap out. After rebelling against the adrenaline system throughout the night, Warren has one final statement to make at the episode's press conference. Offstaged. With the commentator Aaron Cutler hosting the press conference, he welcomes all and announces the opponents for Relentless. First, the man who has made a huge impression over not only the last couple of months, but especially tonight. Warren Jaxon. Warren enters with his team side by side and huge arrogance after their recent actions of the evening. He gets on the microphone instantly and announces how impactful he has been, hyping himself up with Empire cheering him on. With the brash Warren already talking trash, the commentator introduces the opponent. Accompanied by the president, Sam Pullen, the world champion and perhaps the biggest threat in the history of pro wrestling, corruption. Professional and calm, the boss and the champion sit down with Extraordinary still talking trash. Before his opposition can get comfortable, Warren claims that he can see the big man sweating already, believing the champion to be intimidated. With Sam and Corruption in silence, Empire fire shots, asking what happened to the infliction, and remind themselves that they got dropped earlier tonight and are too humiliated to show their faces. Deciding not to rise to debate, Sam calmly orders the host to open the floor for the questions. Aaron does so, with a question being thrown at Corruption first, asking if he truly finds Warren to be a threat for next week. With Extraordinary stirring the pot instantly, Corruption stands up and asks if someone like him could ever be afraid of someone like Warren. Corruption boasts, stating that his power, size and strength was waiting to be unleashed ever since Impetus started. Now, with adrenaline being resurrected, he has been able to show his true dominance. He raises his title in the air to show the symbol of his power. A question is then thrown to Sam, who is asked why he has decided to give his attention to a team that consists of, many would say, stars of the past rather than stars of the future. Sam disputes. For his team to be considered the stars of the past, it means they would have passed their prime and already reached their peak. Sam says that before aligning the adrenaline formation, Titanic hadn't achieved his current success. The president acts humble, claiming that at the end of the day, he just wants to give back to the men that helped him build the platform he has made today. Warren then interrupts and disputes, stating that Sam should be thanking and helping him as he is the real face of the company. With the two sides talking trash and arguing, things get settled with Warren being asked a question. With Warren taking out Devin and Travis earlier in the night, he is asked if it provides him an advantage or a disadvantage for Relentless, as now he has a huge target on his back. Warren knows what he's done. He's pissed off Sam, he's pissed off the boss, he's pissed off the giant, and he's shitting where he eats. He knows he's upset the wrong people, but he didn't blast Dave Falcon into retirement just to be second best, just to be a puppet to Sam and his senior discount team. Viewing Warren's speech to be filled with hot air, Sam believes he wouldn't be rambling on this way if he was by himself, without Empire by his side. Although Sam is out here as a representative, he has no physical threat over Extraordinary whatsoever. Corruption is out here alone, with no aid, no allies, because even opposed by 3 loud-mouthed individuals, he is still not threatened by a 1-on-3 assault. Sam wants to ensure that this statement is true, as at Relentless, not only are the Infliction banned from ringside, but so too are Empire. If the teams make any changes in the match whatsoever, then the title will be awarded to the other man. With the challenger now worried, Sam claims that he can't wait to see what sort of threat Warren can create at the pay-per-view. The host then tells the opponents to stand close and asks for photos to be taken. With Warren and Corruption talking trash, Empire and Sam start getting loud. Extraordinary then attack Corruption, trying to threaten the giant with a 3-on-1 assault. With Sam out of sight, the Infliction appear to back up their partner and brawl with Empire. As the Infliction take out Corey and Blake, Warren gets hit with a huge boot to the face by Corruption. The pace then slows, only for Corruption to grab his opponent's throat and chokeslam him off the stage to end the event. Relentless. Supported by Empire and seen with bandaged ribs, Warren is trying to warm up in his locker room at the pay-per-view until the cocky team of Adrenaline waltz in. The president talks, stating that behind him are a team of winners. With the Infliction beating Greg Williams and Ricky Matthews earlier in the evening, Sam believes that Titanic will destroy Warren Jaxon later tonight for the world title. Although boasting, the president decides to compliment Extraordinary, believing it to be a shame that they didn't align themselves with Adrenaline. After all, he likes their ability and skills and has always considered them to be great talents. However, he reminds them of 2 weeks ago, when not only did they become Adrenaline's enemy, but everybody's enemy. Sam claims that Warren's alienation of the entire roster is what led him to being thrown off stage last week. Continuing his hurtful comments, Sam states that since Dave Falcon's departure, Warren has had the responsibility of Extraordinary on his back and has failed to recreate the success that it was, all because he refused to play ball. Sam wishes Warren good luck tonight, as he is going to need it with those bandaged ribs. Adrenaline leave with Extraordinary stunned and affected by the boss's words. Due to the climax of last week's press conference and the condemning words of the president himself, Warren enters the main event with huge doubt in his mind, believing himself to have bitten off more than he can chew. What should have been, could have been, and would have been a star-making main event for Warren Jaxon ended up being nothing short of a dominating defeat, as the All-Action Jaxon was vanquished in just a matter of minutes by the Titanic champion. Being thrown around and pummeled by the giant, Warren's already injured ribs, combined with his flattened emotion, causes him to lose quickly to Corruption's chokeslam. After pinning the challenger in a matter of minutes, Corruption is joined by Adrenaline to applaud his victory. With Empire appearing to aid Warren out of the ring, Extraordinary walk up the ramp in sadness as Adrenaline stand tall. Is there any stopping Adrenaline and their giant? A stacked main event. With a 6-man tag team match between Extraordinary and Adrenaline advertised for next week's main event, a car pulls up in the parking lot throughout the night. Empire exit the vehicle and go to walk forward, only to realize that they are missing an ally. They go back to the car and talk to someone inside of it, trying to motivate them to coming out. Finally, Warren shows his face and gets out with embarrassment after Relentless. The trio then walk forward, anticipating their match with Adrenaline. This week's main event lasts far longer than the pay-per-views, as Extraordinary battle equally with Adrenaline in multiple parts of the match. After an intense battle, Corruption and Warren both get a hot tag in, only for the champion to flatten his former challenger instantly. Corruption dismantles Warren yet again and attempts a pin, only for Empire to break it up. The giant proceeds to tear through Corey and Blake, and after the infliction hit their finishing move, the deep cut, Corruption piles them on top of Warren and pins all three of them simultaneously while stacked on top of each other. With Sam handing over the title to his champion, Extraordinary's momentum has plunged even further, making us not only question who can stop Adrenaline, but who or what can save Extraordinary. The Peace Offering. Sam is sitting at his office desk the following week with a smile. He claims that there have been rumours over the last couple of months that have placed him in a negative light. Apparently, the rumours suggest that Sam despises certain individuals and has tried his best to embarrass them on multiple occasions. He wants those apparent victims to know that, despite his Adrenaline resurgence, he truly wants what's best for them. As a result, Adrenaline will go out there tonight and call out these particular individuals. Call them out, not to confront them or beat them up, despite how easy it could be, but to commit a peace offering to the stars who feel prosecuted and spat on. Tonight, an offering of peace goes out to those individuals. After all, Sam is a nice guy. As an Adrenaline reconciliation is advertised for later in the night, another advertisement for Dave Falcon's return is shown. With shots of Dave's recovery process over the last few months being revealed, snippets from his previous interview is heard, claiming that he can't wait to come back and be extraordinary all by himself. Text is seen at the end of the package showing the date for the next pay-per-view, Raise Hell. As promised, Sam leads his Adrenaline troops to the ring for a peace offering. He applauds his team for their previous wins and hails his champion. As Adrenaline stand in the ring, Sam reintroduces his team with loudness and excitement. After a huge build-up, he points up to the roof, awaiting fireworks. However, he gets upset to realise that the pyro isn't working. Sam stays calm, trying to act nice, and ignores the mistake. He actually blames the worthless and useless new guy on the job, much like the Impetus locker room. Moving on from the joke, Sam claims that he didn't just plan on celebrating Titanic tonight. In fact, he's celebrating the entirety of his company. Sam wants this segment to be remembered as not just a celebration of his adrenaline, but a celebration of reconciliation, as he wants to make peace to those he's affected recently. Sam announces that he has, in fact, approached these individuals earlier tonight, and has asked them to join them out here to provide this peace offering. As the commentators expect the entrance of Ricky Matthews or perhaps even Greg Williams, they are confused to hear the music of Extraordinary. With the commentators obviously expecting other men, Extraordinary enter with slight sadness. Sam speaks to the three, stating that they have been a great stable in Impetus and have been a constant discussion between the fans. However, despite their talents and skills, they have been no match for his team of Adrenaline members. The boss then gets intense and humiliates Warren, reminding his team of the embarrassment that they have received. Not only was Warren chokeslammed off the stage at the press conference, not only did he compete in the shortest world title match at Relentless, but the entire team of Extraordinary were literally piled up by Titanic last week and defeated in pure dominance. As Extraordinary emote their disappointment and frustration, the boss claims to remind them of these experiences, not to brag or boast, but to let them know that they have been outclassed, answered, and humbled by Adrenaline. The president explains that Warren and his team can continue to try and fight against them, being humiliated even more, or they can open out their hands, realize their placement in this company, and offer peace to Adrenaline. A peace offering that assures Sam and Adrenaline that there will be no more war, no more hatred, and more importantly, no more humiliation. Some may see this peace offering as degrading, placing Extraordinary lower on the totem pole, underneath Adrenaline. The president admits that this is true, as Warren and his team will be seen as the less dominant group behind Adrenaline. However, if they are to accept, they are being placed in a better position than before, accompanied by champions and winners as opposed to being destroyed by them. Sam talks to Warren, telling him that if he wants to make Extraordinary great again, he needs to start from the bottom and work his way up. This peace offering ensures him of doing just that. Telling Extraordinary to make the right decision, Sam and Adrenaline offer their hands to be shaken. After a little discussion, Extraordinary decide to accept the offer, shaking hands with the unit until Greg Williams breaks the unity. The rebel storms to the ring with aggression and says that he is sick of all of this professional, fake, corporate, kiss-ass bullshit. Greg yells at Extraordinary, disappointed in them that they were once battling the system but are now nothing more than lapdogs of Sam and his museum monuments. Greg vents his rebellious intentions and eventually explains that there's a reason why Sam's sprinklers and confetti didn't go off tonight. The reason for the pyro failure is because Greg Williams had his own firework display that he wants to explode right now. With Greg bailing from the ring, old banana skins fall from the ceiling and cover those in the ring. With Adrenaline and Extraordinary falling over the disgusted and old, gross, rotting food, Greg looks on with laughter. Despite the rebellious climax, Extraordinary have indeed made peace with Adrenaline. However, they are nowhere to be seen on the following episode. Falcon Returns. The former Extraordinary mentor makes his preemptive and surprising return the following week. Costing Greg Williams a shot at the World Impetus title, Dave Falcon returns to beat down the rebel and align himself with his old Adrenaline brethren. Announcing allegiance to Adrenaline the following week, Dave Falcon claims that he returned in order to get back to his roots, refusing to put his hand out anymore as no one was willing to take hold of it. Dave claims that the Impetus stars, they have it easy. They are privileged. Guys like Ricky Matthews, trying to be the fan favourite, won't ever get it. Guys like Warren Jaxon, trying to jump the line by taking him out, won't ever get it. Guys like Greg Williams, thinking he deserves something because his t-shirts fly off the walls, he will never get it. Despite Warren being called out by his ex-mentor, it is Greg Williams that enters to confront Falcon. With the scene soon leading to a brawl between the two, Dave is saved by Sam Pullen, who halts the chaos. According to the boss, the return of Dave Falcon will not be ruined and, instead, will be celebrated. What better way to celebrate than to place Greg and the entire roster in a match that Dave Falcon revolutionized? The Vitality match. Sam explains the rules, claiming that there will be multiple groups of battle royals. The winner of each one will advance to the next, turmoil style. The last man standing remaining after all the Rumble matches will be the new #1 contender for Corruption's world title. With Extraordinary's presence yet to be felt since the peace offering, many are left questioning how they will handle Dave Falcon's recent adrenaline status. Vital moment. Extraordinary answer these questions in a backstage segment with Greg Williams the following week. In preparation for the Vitality match, Greg is walking down the hallway and is interrupted by Warren and his team. Grinning with confidence, Warren wishes Greg good luck tonight, as not only is he competing against 15 others to be the next challenger at Raise Hell, but 3 of those possible challengers happens to be Extraordinary version 2. Chuckling, Extraordinary are silenced by Greg, who mocks them, asking when he last saw the 3 of them. He remembers with delight, reminiscing on the last time where he dropped skanky old bananas on them and their new group of friends. Further insulted, Warren tries to defend himself, claiming that the peace offering he made with Adrenaline was to benefit and rebuild Extraordinary. Greg scoffs and asks what so-called benefits Warren has received, apart from getting 1 of his 5 a day. With his chin held high, Warren claims that his peace offering provides him and his team certain perks and inside scoops that most others are not provided. For example, the Vitality match later tonight. Due to his unity with Sam, Warren arrogantly states that he has been placed in the final battle royal, giving him a far higher chance of winning. However, when it comes to Greg, he'll be starting the whole damn thing from the beginning, making his chances very low. The trio grin with Warren saying, "I guess I'll see you out there." Or not. Warren and his team gloat as they leave with Greg in irritation. With the Infliction unable to eliminate Greg from the first and second battle royals, they blame their failures on Empire, who struggle to commit to their peace offering. As the third battle royal commences, the former Extraordinary partners of Warren Jaxon and Dave Falcon enter the ring and lock eyes, and that is all. The match continues with Warren and Dave seemingly ignoring one another until Warren saves his former mentor from elimination, perhaps committing to his own offering of peace. Barely acknowledging the save, the two continue the match until Warren is eliminated by the rookie known as Jimmy Sparrow. With Jimmy Sparrow soon eliminating Dave Falcon, the former Extraordinary allies are defeated. They exit up the ramp, ignoring one another. With the Vitality match continuing, Greg battles with Jimmy for a while until Dave Falcon reappears and eliminates Greg from the match, crowning Jimmy the new #1 contender. No puppet strings attached. As Warren continues to constantly be placed in the background, Greg Williams looks for revenge on Dave Falcon. The president promises a match between the two at Raise Hell, however, a compromise must be made. Sam demands that the rebel will not lay a single finger on any of the Adrenaline members until the pay-per-view. If he does, the match is cancelled. Greg scowls and asks if Sam has lost his damn mind. He reminds Sam of his scheduled match with the Infliction later tonight with a stupid and oh-so-original concept of having a mystery partner. He asks how the hell he's going to be able to compete against them when he can't fight them. Sam sniggers, arrogantly telling Greg that he's just going to have to pray that his mystery partner does the dirty work for him. Otherwise, if he gets physical with Adrenaline, his highly anticipated match with Dave at Raise Hell is terminated. With Greg's partner still unannounced, the Infliction enter later in the night with cockiness as they are aware of the stipulation at play. Entering with anger, Greg awaits the arrival of his partner at the bottom of the ramp. After a moment of waiting, the music of Warren Jaxon plays. A sad yet focused Warren Jaxon enters on stage, aware of how the president has used his peace offering to his advantage. The commentary team ask how great of a partner Warren will be for Greg, considering his alliance with Adrenaline. Greg hates it, but refuses to touch his opponents throughout the match, making Warren the legal man. Warren accepts this challenge and offers his opponents a respectful handshake to start the contest. Just because there is a peace offering, it doesn't mean the allies cannot have a respectful and competitive contest, right? The contest is friendly between the villains as they gladly break any holds when necessary and show each other respect after a sequence of reversals or chain wrestling. During these stoppages, Devin and Travis taunt Greg as he simply stands on the apron, furious with his position. From this, the rebel yells at Warren to fight harder. With Warren being outdone by his opponents multiple times, he decides to take Greg's advice and get more aggressive, eventually gaining huge momentum. As Warren pins Devin for a victory, Travis pulls him off with frustration, insulted with his actions. Warren proclaims his innocence, claiming that he was simply trying to win the match. Refusing to accept the excuses, the Infliction pause the contest and argue with Warren in the middle of the ring as he's supposed to be keeping the peace. Furious with Jackson's apparent betrayal, Devin and Travis have had enough and decide to tell him to simply leave the ring. Although disrespected and belittled, Warren realizes that he must keep his peace and, as a result, exits the ring slowly, with disappointment. Controlled by his superiors, Jaxon leaves while the voice of Greg is heard in the background, demanding his partner to turn around and return to the fight. Frustrated with his position, Warren walks up the ramp only to be confronted by his partner. Greg attempts to yell at Warren only to be kicked in the gut and hit with the overdrive on the ramp. Frustrated that it came to this, Warren throws Greg back inside the ring and leaves, allowing the Infliction to get a tainted win. Later in the night, Warren is seen in the hallway with disappointment as he is being lectured by Devin and Travis. The Infliction assert their dominance, telling Warren that he needs to make sure he keeps the peace with Adrenaline, otherwise he and his team won't be so extraordinary. In sorrow, Jaxon understands the lecture and apologizes for the inconvenience. With the Infliction leaving, the scene seems to end with Warren looking toward the floor in sadness. However, the segment gets physical as Warren is then attacked by Greg Williams. Furious with the way that this tag team match ended, Greg brawls with his so-called partner until Sam Pullen brings in security to halt the violence, kicking Greg out of the building. With Greg furthering his hatred for Sam and Adrenaline, Warren is trapped in the web of Adrenaline. Redesign, rebuild, regain? So far, the peace offering with the president has provided Warren with little success. Not only has he failed in rejuvenating the success of Extraordinary, but has failed his independent duties of regaining the coast-to-coast title. As the lack of progress continues throughout the weeks, Warren finally approaches Sam in an attempt to walk away from their deal. Surrounded by his Adrenaline team in his office, the president vents his satisfaction of their unity, thanking them for their efforts. After knocking at the door, Warren enters with sadness. After being asked what he wants, Warren calmly and timidly talks about the last few weeks. Since the peace offering, he is disappointed with the man he has become. He hates how an alliance with the most powerful group in the company has made him feel the weakest he's ever been. Sighing in anxiety, he wants to know if there's a way out of the deal. Sam is forgiving and decides to thank Warren for his efforts of keeping the peace over the last few weeks. If breaking the peace is really what he wants, then Sam has no choice but to respect that. Relieved to have no conflict, Warren is thankful for the understanding and attempts to leave, only to be stopped by this sniggering president. Sam is disappointed to see Warren walk out on the deal, as he was considering rewarding him for his troubles. With Warren now interested, Sam reminds him that the whole point of Extraordinary 2.0 was for Warren to rebuild himself and his team back to the heights that they once had. With a reward in mind, Sam has an opportunity for Warren to do exactly that. Warren is now further curious and approaches his boss with hope. If Warren is to continue his peace with Adrenaline, Sam is happy to schedule a match for him tonight, where if he wins, he becomes a part of the Coast to Coast Championship match at the next pay-per-view, Raise Hell. Excited with his opportunity, Warren asks who his opponent will be, only for Sam to leave it a mystery. Humbled and appreciative, Warren understands and thanks the boss before leaving, letting Sam and his Adrenaline team grin with evil intentions. Warren finds himself being used as a tool to Greg Williams' destruction. With the rivalry between the Rebel and Dave Falcon expanding in an in-ring segment, Sam sends Warren Jaxon to the ring to fight his adversary. Competing against Greg, Jaxon has his own #1 contenders match in order to compete for his most prized possession. Stepping in the ring, he walks past the exiting Falcon, who stares at him, noting their past. Falcon may leave the ring, but he stays at ringside to oversee the match. With such an opportunity on the line, Warren weakens Greg's knee throughout the match and locks in the Indian Deathlock. With Greg locked in the hold and in pain, Warren adds further fuel to the fire as he looks at Dave with intensity, reminding him of the extraordinary breakup. Dave hates seeing the submission and the attitude of his former protege so much that he decides to push the ropes toward Greg, actually helping him survive the match. With Warren forced to release the hold and irritated with his former mentor's actions, he tries to refocus, only to get caught in the jaw with Greg's screw-to-knee finisher, leading to a victory for the Rebel. Deciding to focus on personal issues rather than business issues, Warren is unable to secure his spot at Raise Hell, ruining his chance of regaining his former glory. He recovers while glaring at Dave, who sniggers at ringside. Hoping to send a message to his future opponent, Greg attempts to use Warren as his tool of destruction as he attempts to send his rival a message with the Gordo Cutter. However, Falcon disrupts the attack, hitting the Rebel with his own extreme facebuster finisher. Placing Warren even further to the side, Falcon stands over both opponent and protege, absorbing his superiority. Peace Breaker? Last week's events have Extraordinary in an anxious huddle in the hallway, wondering what the future holds after the chaos from 7 days ago. They are soon approached by the matchmaker of Impetus, Jillian Day, who is accompanied by the president, Sam Pullen, and the entire Adrenaline team. Acting peaceful, Sam tells Extraordinary that they've done a great job in keeping the peace with them, especially after last week where Warren lost his chance of fighting for the coast-to-coast title. After the subtle jab, Sam commends the trio's ability to resist brawling with his team. However, Jillian has a different perspective, claiming that she could see the tension between Warren and Dave last week. To make sure that they are all still on the same page, she announces that tonight's main event will be Warren Jaxon versus Dave Falcon. With Extraordinary puzzled, Sam agrees with the match and states that he wants to see a friendly competition rather than thinking about the past. Casually, he asks the two if they can hold up to their deal. Although glaring at his former protege, Dave claims to have no troubles in putting his feelings to the side. Warren fails to answer as he deeply stares at his former mentor. Noticing the tension, Sam asks yet again, this time with a more aggressive tone. Warren looks at his boss with irritation and claims that he made peace and shook hands with everybody in Adrenaline, but not Dave Falcon. Had he known Falcon would be returning to the Adrenaline unit, things may have been different. As a result, he sees no reason why he and Empire can't finish what they started 4 months ago. With Extraordinary threatening and Adrenaline, Sam is happy to provide the reason. He informs Warren that if they decide to repent against the peace offering, then they will not only be an enemy of the Impetus audience along with the entire Impetus locker room, but will have a deadly enemy of Adrenaline. Sam tells them that without this unity, Extraordinary lack protection, they lack their place on the show, and they lack the respect from their peers. As the president grins at his superiority, he once again asks Warren to hold up his deal, ordering him to shake hands with Dave and accept the match. Dave offers his hand to be shaken. With Warren reluctant, he eventually shows Falcon some respect as we approach the main event. Peace offering in mind, a clean and respectful contest is seen in the main event. Warren gains momentum throughout the match, increasing the intensity of his offense. The former team members get more and more brutal with their moveset, with both men, especially Warren, refusing to quit. With Warren staying resilient, he gains the upper hand and attacks Dave's knee, reminiscent of their past, eventually locking in the Indian Deathlock. With Dave close to tapping, Sam bursts to ringside and pulls Warren out of the ring, furious for not keeping the peace. With Warren arguing, claiming that he just wanted to win, he gets slapped by Sam, causing a disqualification. Furious with Sam's decision, Warren clenches his fists and raises his hand, ready to strike his boss. Halting the scene, the Infliction appear at ringside to argue with Warren. They shove him, asking what the hell he's doing and how he dares raise a hand to the boss. With Warren pushing back, a fight is about to start until Empire come down to calm their partner. Corey and Blake cool the tension and remind Warren of their peace offering, telling him to leave before things get worse. As Extraordinary exit with Confliction, the segment seems to be over, until Greg Williams enters to confront the trio. With the Adrenaline members still at ringside, Greg lectures Extraordinary on the ramp, asking them if they're just going to allow Sam and Adrenaline to treat them this way. With Warren and Empire still retreating, Greg says that if they're not going to act, then he will. Greg throws the microphone down and gets physical with Adrenaline. With Extraordinary nowhere to be seen during Greg's rebellious actions, many are left wondering how long Warren and his team are willing to withstand their position. Raise Hell. With the Coast to Coast title match taking place without Warren, Empire lose their own opportunity to regain the tag team titles in the 8-man eliminator match. Extraordinary seem to fade further into the background as Warren Jaxon is nowhere to be seen on the card, with the peace offering still intact. Internal Hell. Entering with something to prove, both Gary Federline and Warren Jaxon are in action on the next episode, trading verbal blows as well as physical. Warren reminds Gary of his failure to win the Coast to Coast title last week, claiming himself to be the rightful and worthy contender. However, Gary banters back, reminding Warren of his pathetic unity with Adrenaline and how he didn't even compete at the previous pay-per-view. After their physical battle and war of words, Gary is able to pick up the victory by hitting the Fed Cred finisher and then tapping Warren out with the Regal Stretch, adding injury to insult. Losing yet again, Warren slowly recovers on the mat with depression and irritation, starting what seems to be a whirlwind of negative emotions. Failure after failure, loss after loss, embarrassment after embarrassment, Warren's constant inability to achieve former success is destroying his mentality and confidence. Frustrated with his performance and helplessness to provide power to his Extraordinary faction, it seems as though Warren may be deciding to take alternative actions in order to regain his former glory. That is, until the State of Impetus. State of Mind. Next week begins with all the members of the roster gathered around the ring. seen between the ropes, is the President along with Adrenaline, Jillian Day, Jacinta, and Extraordinary, looking down at the roster. Before Sam makes a huge announcement in just a moment, he talks about his Adrenaline team and how they deserved the world, and now he has finally given it to them. He says that those outside the bubble like Empire, Warren Jaxon, Jillian and Jacinta have also learnt that the Adrenaline way is the way to move forward. However, there are some people out there who disagree with these actions. Hence why he has called his entire roster to come out here and state their claims of disagreement. As the segment continues, Warren and Empire are seen in the background with silence, almost disappointed in themselves for where they stand. With the President belittling his roster, telling them that they would be nothing without Adrenaline, Extraordinary once again hate to hear it, yet nod in approval, understanding that they would be powerless without Sam's superiority. As the promo leads to multiple Impetus stars walking out on Adrenaline, Sam is happy to say good riddance to all of them, furthering the segment by announcing not only an Adrenaline Appreciation Night for the current episode, but an Adrenaline Hall of Fame for the following week. With Sam allowing his show to be crammed with Adrenaline talent, the President's persistence to showcase his own faction heightens, all while Warren and Empire follow the team around like sheep, just waiting for their bone to be thrown. Hall of Shame. Extraordinary continue their disappointing allegiance as they accompany Sam to the ring the following week for the Adrenaline Hall of Fame ceremony. Once again being placed out of sight and out of mind, Warren and Empire are almost being used as security for the boss and Adrenaline. Despite this, they seem to be convinced that, sooner or later, their time will come. As the trio hate to witness the pathetically cringy Hall of Fame speeches by each faction member, it is eventually interrupted and destroyed by Greg Williams. Greg appreciates Adrenaline as he shares a generous and expensive gift of pyrotechnics. The Rebel sets off sparklers and fireworks that deploy in the ring, blinding the Adrenaline team. With the Hall of Famers' faces blackened with gunpowder, Greg looks on with a smirk as he has ruined the Adrenaline Hall of Fame. With Greg later dropping Vipernip and Dave Falcon and further pinning the world champion known as Corruption, the Rebel ends the episode demanding a title shot for his rebellious yet impressive actions. Extraordinary Pressure. The next episode opens with Sam revealing his insurgency plans. He announces that Greg Williams will compete for the world title at the next pay-per-view if he can defeat Extraordinary in tonight's 3-on-1 handicap match. Placing Greg in a difficult situation, Sam grins, saying that it sure would be a shame if Greg couldn't make it to the next pay-per-view, Insurgency. Prepared and hyped for their upcoming match, Extraordinary confront the Rebel in his locker room. Confident, the trio try to calm Greg, letting him know that they'll take it easy on him tonight. Williams acts scared, thanking them for their charity. He sees right through them, telling them that they can pretend to be happy with being Adrenaline's henchmen all they want, but inside he knows that there are 3 extraordinary people just waiting, dying for their moment. He tells them that they have 2 choices. They can go out there, get humiliated and get their asses handed to them, or they can fight the system that has been oppressing them this entire time. Greg gets close, lays a hand on Warren's shoulder and acts like he really cares. Whatever choice they make, Greg wants them to know that he doesn't give a shit. Because either way, he wins. Affected by the Rebels' words, Warren is about to say something only for Empire to pose a threat, saying that Greg has been a thorn in Adrenaline's side for way too long. Last week, he embarrassed the most important people in the company by blowing them up in the ring. Tonight, they will get their recognition as they take out the biggest threat and finally getting rewarded for their actions. With Empire convinced of their plan, Greg mocks their Aussie accent, ensuring them that they're not going to be hitting any radical waves tonight. He then looks at a silent Warren, asking when the hell he even last won a match. Greg tells the trio that they may be the guinea pigs of Adrenaline, but they are his guinea pigs tonight, as he will show Sam and his crew exactly what will happen to Adrenaline. He's going to make them all his bitches. Despite his Adrenaline team reaching huge success, Sam's professional issues with Ricky Matthews gets more intense. With the president outraged at Ricky's accidental fan interaction, the two have an intense argument in the medical room where Ricky is recovering. As Sam threatens a lawsuit against Ricky, he storms out of the room and sees Extraordinary. Already annoyed, he lectures them, telling them that they better get the job done tonight as he's not in the mood to deal with any more drama. The trio agree with fear, saying that they will make their boss proud. Sam goes to walk on, but steps back, glaring at his allies. He wants them to know that their peace offering wasn't designed just to protect them, but for them to represent Adrenaline's fight, power, and spirit. Looking at Empire, he claims that some have delivered. He then looks at Warren, claiming that others have failed. As Warren tries his best not to be fazed by the comment, Sam claims that tonight they must deliver, as he refuses to have any cracks in the pathway of Adrenaline's road to success. He sends them out, telling them to get the job done. Extraordinary leave in fear, with Sam intense. Despite the president's encouragement, Extraordinary fail to appease their boss as they are defeated by Greg Williams in the 3-on-1 main event, allowing the Rebel to compete for the world title at Insurgency. One man's trash. Greg Williams heads into Insurgency hotter than ever before, and only gets hotter as he takes over next week's show, becoming the temporary president for the evening. With his power came the great responsibility of creating his own 3-on-1 handicap match, placing himself with Wazzy D and Barry the Bogan against corruption. Pinning the world champion yet again and heading into the pay-per-view with his own titanic confidence, Greg's momentum continues to skyrocket. However, Warren's emotions plummet further down the drain as he suffers a loss in singles competition on that same night. With no signs of regaining his former glory, Warren and Extraordinary head into the pay-per-view without any chance of redemption. Insurgency. Despite their lack of matches on the pay-per-view, Extraordinary join a furious president as he kicks off the show with his unit. Enraged with his team about what happened last week, he lectures each ally, asking why they didn't take action on Greg Williams' takeover of the show, and vents his disappointment in them. Addressing issues with individual talent, Sam then glares at Warren and Empire, asking where Adrenaline's protection was. Referring to the trio as a disappointment, he looks at Warren and refers to one man in particular to be an absolute failure. Extraordinary try their best not to be upset with their boss's words, as Warren looks at the ground, seemingly about to blow. As Sam finishes the segment, he stares at his Adrenaline champions, demanding that they do not embarrass him yet again. As the unit leaves the ring, Warren and Empire follow with their heads hung low. Throughout the night, Sam is motivating his team in his office, telling them not to disappoint him like they did last week. Adrenaline leave, promising their boss a victory. With Extraordinary lingering behind, Sam notices them, asking them what they want. Deciding to show no fear, Warren wants to know what Sam meant in the ring, referring one man to be an absolute failure. The president chuckles, claiming that he isn't happy with Extraordinary as they haven't done their job in protecting him and his brand. Warren is clearly upset, but contains himself, telling Sam that he has done everything he has asked of him. No matter the outcome of his matches, he has put his personal disputes and opinions to the side for Sam and not for himself. With Empire resisting their shocked emotions, Warren asks for a little more respect. Sam sniggers with menace, saying that Extraordinary made peace not for Adrenaline's benefit, but for their own. They made a deal with Adrenaline in order to have some protection, and in return for that protection, they do what Sam tells them to do. Sam continues his rant until Warren yells, stopping the boss. With his voice raised, Warren says that Extraordinary made peace not for protection, but because Sam promised them an easy ticket to regaining their success. He and his team have done everything that they have been asked to do. The deal wasn't to win matches, the deal was to make peace, and they have done that. Now, Warren wants to know when they get their opportunity. Sam is shocked and then laughs, asking why the hell Warren thinks he deserves anything. Sick of the president's attitude, Warren gets physical with Sam, holding him by the collar and pushing him up against the wall. With Empire and Sam in fear of what may happen, Warren screams with passion. He has had Corey and Blake following him for months now, promising them that Extraordinary will regain their previous success, and, so far, he has failed them. He refuses to accept the blame, as Sam has all the power to help them, but has decided to give them nothing. He advises that Sam actually does something, before his patience and peace offering runs out. Still pinned against the wall, Sam smiles, telling Warren that this is the fire that he needs. This is the same fire that was burning all those months ago when he took out Dave Falcon. Asking Warren to let go, Sam promises to make sure he gets his moment. Warren lets go, with Sam adjusting himself. He tells the trio to be a little more patient, as something great is about to happen. Extraordinary exit with Sam grinning at what is to come. Insurgency hosts a personal steel cage match between the foes of Charlie Finch and Gary Federline. With the vacant coast-to-coast title up for grabs, the intense rivalry leads to yet another confusing climax for the two. After their epic war inside the steel, they both race over the top of the cage and hit the floor at the same time. With the cage raising, a new coast-to-coast champion is still yet to be announced. After a minute of confusion, the president enters to solve this issue. Sam stands on the stage with anger, sick of Finch and Federline and their failure to declare a new and official coast-to-coast champion. Seeing as the two cannot create a clear winner, Sam decides to introduce a man who can. A man who has been waiting for his moment for far too long. A man who has been doing everything asked for adrenaline, and a man who has put adrenaline before his own personal gain. The battle for the gold is not yet over for Finch and Federline, as Sam is now making this a triple threat match for the coast-to-coast title. With the third participant ready to be introduced, Warren Jaxon's music hits. Entering with focus and realizing his opportunity, Warren is quickly stopped from walking down the ramp as Sam pauses everything. He asks Warren who he thinks he is. Confused, Warren is assured by the boss that he is not the third man. With Warren insulted and upset, Sam introduces the third man, Dave Falcon. The Adrenaline member enters in smugness, fully aware that he has taken Warren's dreams away. Dave shakes Sam's hand with gratitude, ignoring the confused Warren in the process. As Warren stays on stage with Sam, he witnesses a quick battle between Falcon, Finch, and Federline. Watching his former mentor steal his spot in the match, Warren cannot believe his eyes as he watches Dave Falcon raise the coast-to-coast title. As the new champion celebrates with excitement, Sam applauds while Warren claps slowly, trying to hide his frustration. Once again, Warren has been pushed to the side, as now Adrenaline have all the gold, with the coast-to-coast title now belonging to Dave Falcon. Since excommunicating his mentor from the Extraordinary group, Warren's only goal was to recreate the success that his team once obtained. Failing to accomplish this aspiration may have been torturous enough, but to have Dave Falcon, the mentor in which Warren revolted against in the first place, raise the prize that he so desperately wants? Could it get any worse for Warren Jaxon? Dave Falcon's title celebration. It gets worse. Impetus's next episode hosts a Dave Falcon title celebration, commemorating the Adrenaline member's achievements in not only his past success, but his current success, as he is the first man in Impetus history to hold both the World Impetus and Coast to Coast Championship. A posh carpet is centered in the middle of the ring with multiple podiums around it, showcasing framed championships of Dave Falcon's past. The Samster title, the SPW title, the Adrenaline Cruiserweight title, the Adrenaline World title, the Impetus World title, and one frame is noticeably empty. The champion then enters without his gold, yet with huge cockiness. Dave gets in the ring and is happy with his framed titles, remembering his experiences of the past. Dave reminisces on his previous title success and soon realizes that there is one title missing from the scene. With the Coast to Coast title both missing from his waist and the empty frame, Dave states that this is his title celebration. As a result, the gold will be handed over to him as a coronation, if you will. Here to award Dave with the title is none other than his ally, Warren Jaxon. Warren then enters with Dave's new title in a velvet black bag, ready to be presented. Composing himself as he walks down the ramp, Warren hates to be a part of the segment and loathes having to hand over the title to Dave. Realizing Warren's emotions, Dave asks his former protege why he has such a glum look on his face. He continues to wonder and sarcastically remembers that Warren used to hold the Coast to Coast title. Pretending to realize, Dave laughs at the idea of Warren believing he was going to be the chosen one last week. Falcon pities Warren, as he was never going to achieve the same success that he had in Extraordinary, claiming that times have changed. With Warren clearly bothered by the arrogant speech, he witnesses Falcon continue. Since its inception, the Coast to Coast title has been perceived as this up-and-comer belt, the step-up title, the workhorse title, if you will, designed to show the world what the man is capable of with the championship. Dave states that with all that positivity behind it, those who have held the title have factually failed to live up to its symbolism. Dave looks at those who have held the title before him and criticizes their performance. Scar, a demonic and psychopathic monster that, although fills the role of a dominant champion, literally burnt the title to a crisp, showing no respect for the title or the business. Dylan Dark, a man who is taking out the rookies of this business, and although Dave may respect his hustle and agenda, he claims that Adrenaline are performing that same agenda with far more class and dignity. Charlie Finch, a pathetic little boy who held the title and only when he lost it did he turn into a warrior. However, there was one man who started it all. The first champion had all the signs of becoming the next generation star. The man who represented the symbolism of the title. The man who was destined to become the next main event guy, only to flush it down the toilet for his own selfish goals. Dave gets in Warren's face, stating that the first title holder had everything lined up for him. Only with his mentor injured for three measly months, he didn't have the patience to wait for his success to return back to him. Shaking in resistance to punch Falcon in the face, Warren listens to the champion continue his horrible rant. Dave claims that instead of waiting, this former Coast to Coast champion threw away his hopes and dreams, attacked his mentor, and promised himself and his team everything, only to realize that he just wasn't ready. With Warren quivering his lips, trying his best not to lose his temper, Dave continues, saying that the first Coast to Coast champion is the biggest failure of them all, as not only did he knee Dave Falcon in Extraordinary, but even after attacking him, even after assaulting him to make a statement, he now needs him more than ever. Dave informs Warren that the peace offering made to Adrenaline was never to reward him with a title. In fact, the only favour Adrenaline owed Warren has already been given, which was to spare him from being humiliated and eliminated from this business. Dave states that, with the snap of his fingers, Adrenaline could have taken Extraordinary out after the cowardly act that they performed months ago. Instead, Davis enjoyed seeing Warren and Empire flounder like the pathetic excuses they are without him. Refusing to spend any more time and effort on his protege, Dave announces that Warren will not only show peace, but show respect as he hands over and rewards Dave Falcon with the brand new Coast to Coast Championship. Brand new in every way, in both design and symbolism. Humbled by Dave's words, Warren decides to unzip the bag, allowing Dave to start an acceptance speech. According to Dave, the title now represents honor, power, and the legacy carved before it. Now, Dave Falcon can add to his collection as he is the new Coast to Coast champion. Warren then hands over the title with Dave raising it, only to see that it is the same as before, burnt and ruined. With the champion insulted with the mistake, he yells at Warren away from the microphone, asking him where the new one is. Warren shows mercy and fear as it is clearly a mistake, saying that the new one is in the backstage area. Empire then arrive on stage with the new title in another black velvet bag. With Dave yelling, they quickly arrive in the ring and hand it to Warren, showing mercy to their superior. Warren then hands it to Dave with panic, hoping that all has been recovered. Falcon tries to move on, calming himself. With his moment almost ruined, he refocuses and begins to hype up the reveal of the new Coast to Coast title, only to decide to rant, yet again, about Warren's incompetence. He notes Warren's stupidity, saying that Warren wanted to take the reins of Extraordinary, take control and leadership of his own career, and yet he can't even hand him a title without messing it all up. Dave calls Warren pathetic, claiming that he is proven to be a failure after all the losses, all the embarrassment, and most importantly, handing over a title that he so desperately wants, over to the man who gave it to him in the first place. Dave unzips the velvet bag and announces himself as the new Coast to Coast champion yet again, only to reveal an odd-looking title. Dave is happy until he notices the gold. Clearly, this version of the gold is not what Dave had in mind. He vents his added frustration to a merciful and apologetic Extraordinary. Warren desperately provides Dave with a long-winded and pathetic excuse. The new title had a chip on it, so they had to go and get it fixed. But then, on the way back to the arena, a diamond fell off, so they had to go put that back on. And then Dave's name was spelt wrong, and it needed to be completely taken apart and started all over again, because they just wanted to make it perfect for Dave. With the title being worked on as they speak, Warren thought he would chip in and buy a replacement title just for the evening. Dave is bothered by the screw-up, but decides to calm the situation in order to stop the fumbling Warren from talking. He forgives Jaxon for his mistake, but is still confused, asking why the title reads POS Champion. Warren holds the title and explains that the writing is an acronym, you see. POS. Dave Falcon is a POS champion. A piece of shit. Warren glares at a shocked Dave and drops the title, insulting the champion even further. Dave goes to strike, only for Warren to counter and then take him down. With the champion laid out, Empire are shocked as they witness Warren and Falcon brawl inside the ring. Warren takes over offense, unloading punches on Dave. Empire get involved and pull Warren off, only to be yelled at by their ally, telling them to let him free. The action stops as Warren stares at his team, asking if they are going to join him. Empire stands still, not knowing what to do. Then, Warren counters another incoming strike from Dave, leading to a counter and an overdrive to the champion. With Falcon dropped on his ass, the infliction and corruption storm to the action, with Warren running out of the ring and over the barricade to escape. Looking after Dave, Corruption yells at Empire in the ring as Warren exits the arena with huge momentum. As the show returns from a commercial break, scenes of moments ago are shown as Warren escaped the building from the parking lot, fleeing from the scene in his car. Not being seen for the rest of the night, Warren has finally revolted against Adrenaline and, more importantly, for the second time, Dave Falcon. Extract Ordinary. 7 days after his revolting actions, Warren Jaxon is seen in the parking lot, walking from his car with his suitcase. Strolling with swagger, he sees Empire to the left of him. Due to their lack of involvement in his rebellion last week, he approaches them, looks up and down, and then scoffs with attitude. Moving away from his apparent allies, he walks on until Dave Falcon approaches him with the new Coast to Coast title in hand, standing and glaring with anger after last week. Warren gives another scoff, this time with a chuckle. Trying to walk past the Coast to Coast champion, he is quickly stopped by Sam Pullen and the rest of Adrenaline, supporting their partner. After Warren ruined the title celebration last week, Sam claims that most people would have been suspended or even fired. However, the reason why Warren has been allowed to appear on tonight's show is to be given what he wants: a title shot. With Adrenaline shocked and angry, Sam reminds Warren of the opportunity he so desperately wanted since their peace offering, and now he gets what he wants. Sam explains that he wanted to see Warren's tenacity and desire. Last week, he showed just that. Tonight, Warren Jaxon is finally returned the favour as he goes one-on-one with Greg Williams for the World Impetus Championship. With Warren speechless, so too are Adrenaline, especially Corruption. The president realises the shock on his allies' faces and attempts to convince them of the positive that has come out of Warren's outrage last week. Looking at his team with approval, Sam says that Warren is not only at peace with Adrenaline, but is now a part of it. Tonight, he wants Warren to bring back the title to Adrenaline. Warren is confused, as all he had to do to get his opportunity was to beat up Dave Falcon. The same thing he did all those months ago. Sam reminds Warren of the fire that he showed last week and would love to take advantage of that momentum by dethroning Greg Williams and, more importantly, giving the Action Jaxon a well-deserved title reign. Warren doesn't know what kind of plants Sam has been smoking, but if he gets a title match tonight, then he's in. Warren leaves in confidence while Adrenaline are in shock, almost insulted by Sam's decision. With Adrenaline and the commentary team questioning Sam's intentions, the president is delighted with Warren's new attitude. With the world title match between Warren Jaxon and Greg Williams advertised for the main event, Warren is then seen in his locker room. Preparing for the biggest match of his life, he is interrupted by his opponent for the evening, intervening with a smirk. The champion talks to his future challenger, claiming that it's about time he took some action against Adrenaline. Greg states that after a really long time, Warren finally got his respect last week. Warren laughs at Greg's newfound respect for him, as, for a long time, Warren wanted it. Not just respect from Greg, but from Dave Falcon, Adrenaline, hell, everyone in the locker room. Until he realized, no matter what decision he makes, no matter what he does or doesn't do in this business, someone, somewhere, is going to hate him for it. He doesn't care what Sam's intentions are and doesn't care who does or doesn't respect him, because from now on, there's only one man's opinion on Warren Jaxon that matters, and that's his. If being a part of Adrenaline is his only way of getting back his Coast to Coast title, then so be it. If they have any intentions of messing with his mission, then he will gladly do to Adrenaline the same thing he did to Dave Falcon. With the all-for-all match set for the next pay-per-view, many questions are forming in the upcoming match alone. Episode 100 will see Team Impetus, comprised of Greg Williams, Daria, El Fuego, and Gary Federline, take on the Adrenaline team of Corruption, Emerald, Infliction, and Dave Falcon, with every title up for grabs. As Adrenaline holds all the gold, apart from Greg's world title, it is truly winner-take-all, as not only will the winning team leave with their respective titles, but the losing team will fade into obscurity, never to be seen again. With Warren Jaxon competing for the world title on tonight's episode, the commentators ask what would happen if he were to win the gold. Would he do as Sam wants and bring the title home to Adrenaline? Or will he replace Greg and rebel against the president's system? These questions plan on being answered in the main event, where Warren's intensity is stronger than ever before, showing his new attitude in the process. After a tiring battle, Warren is on top of the champion and is about to win with the overdrive until he gets booted in the face by the suddenly appearing Corruption. Once again, the bell rings for a disappointing disqualification finish. Corruption screams, verbalizing his power. Furious with the interference, Greg tries to strike the giant, only to be power slammed for his efforts. Staring at the fallen rebel, Corruption is turned around by a pained and enraged Warren. Venting his anger with the disqualification, Warren is soon attacked by Dave Falcon, hit with an extreme facebuster. As Dave and Corruption stand over Warren and Greg, the show seems to be ready for an end, only for Empire to run down to the ring, seemingly to stand up against Adrenaline. Empire stare at Corruption and Dave for a while and eventually help Warren to his feet. As Corey and Blake seem to be aligning themselves with Warren, they turn on him, hitting him with the Thunder from Down Under tag team finisher. Showing their allegiance to Dave and Adrenaline, Empire look down at Jaxon with sadness and are eventually ordered by Dave to get a steel chair. With Empire in the palm of his hands once again, Dave is given a chair to use on his enemy. Setting the chair up, he hits the Breaker on Warren onto the steel. With Warren out cold, Greg is left to recover on the outside in defeat as he witnesses Empire, Dave and Corruption stand over his opponent with dominance. The final image of this episode sees Corruption grabbing the world title and raising it, symbolizing that he is the only man who will take the title from Greg. Out of Action Jaxon. On the next episode, Sam is asked for his explanation from the previous week and why Warren Jaxon was seemingly excommunicated from the peace offering of Adrenaline. Sam says that what happened to Warren last week was purely to set an example that Titanic is, should be, and after episode 100 will always be the World Impetus Champion. The boss simply finds it hilarious how Warren thought that what he did 2 weeks ago would actually benefit him and his career. If you fight against Adrenaline, you will pay the ultimate price. Sam explains that Warren has been a thorn in his side for a while, demanding opportunities despite having little to no reason to ask for them. Empire was smart to keep their peace with Adrenaline, and as a result have been spared. For now. Because tonight, with the night's theme being Adrenaline versus Impetus, they must continue to prove their loyalty as Corey faces Barry the Bogan. Adrenaline attained great success in this episode, as not only does Corey get a win over Barry the Bogan, showing some Adrenaline spirit, but Dave Falcon and Corruption are also victorious over El Fuego later in the night. In a post-match promo with the winners, Corruption speaks, sending a message to Warren Jaxon. He says that no one in this company, no one ranks higher than him. No one is better suited to being world champion than him, and asks us to look at the fallen El Fuego as to why. He sends a message to Warren Jaxon, Greg Williams and all of Impetus that their fairy tale dreams will end in a nightmare, as at episode 100 he will reclaim what is rightfully his, the World Impetus Championship. Dave talks, telling Warren that it's a shame about what happened last week. Placed in the world title scene yet again, Warren finally reached his status that Dave wanted to get out of him for so long, but it was too late. Last week, just like Impetus, Warren achieved success. However, just like Impetus will be at episode 100, he was destroyed by Adrenaline. The villain's exit with El Fuego still recovering. With only a few weeks left until the biggest pay-per-view of Impetus's lifespan, Team Impetus find themselves down a member. Much like Warren, Gary Federline is put on the injury list due to Adrenaline's relentless mission for superiority. As Adrenaline continue to gain the advantage heading into episode 100, Greg Williams and Impetus find themselves begging multiple stars for an alliance, only for all of them to decline. Rejected a final member, Impetus head into episode 100 with a disadvantage. Episode 100. Anticipating the all-for-all main event match, the controversial conspiracy theorist known as Stephen Dreadful heads to the ring at the pay-per-view, furious with his current treatment. Stephen believes it to be a travesty to have the 100th episode of Impetus without him being placed on the card. He tells the fans to admire him repeatedly until the light-hearted pranksters called Triple J interrupt the complaints. Jimmy and Jack mock and insult the conspiracy theorist, having fun at his expense until Stephen's biggest fan and color commentator, CJ, decides to intrude. Banter between the two teams increase, leading to some harsh words. Hoping their opposition can back up their words, Jimmy and Jack drop the microphone and look for a fight against CJ and Stephen. With Stephen cowardly exiting the ring, it leaves CJ alone, all alone with Triple J. Grabbing CJ by the collar, they ask the fans if they should strike the scared commentator. However, the scene is stopped due to an impromptu attack by Empire. Empire beat down the tag team and are about to hit the Thunder from Down Under, until Warren Jaxon returns through the crowd, gets in the ring and beats down Empire. Hitting them both with overdrives, Warren bails out the ring as the entire Adrenaline team chase after him along with security. With Warren escaping through the crowd, he gets caught by security, tackled to the floor and taken to the backstage area. Sam and Adrenaline are furious and order the anarchistic Warren out of the arena, demanding the security throw him on the streets where he belongs. About to be sent out the door, Warren struggles while in the grips of security and claims that Sam can't send him anywhere, because he is the 5th member of Impetus. Everyone stops and are shocked. Refusing to believe and accept Warren's words, Corruption orders the security to banish Warren from the arena, only for Sam to halt the movement. The boss explains that he doesn't want Impetus to have any excuses when they lose tonight. With Warren performing such a rebellious act, it will give him immense pleasure to say goodbye to him and the rest of Impetus, as Adrenaline are victorious in equal action. To Adrenaline's shock, Sam announces that Warren is officially in the match. Sam sniggers as he watches Warren leave, while Adrenaline are stunned with the decision. As the main event approaches, Jaxon is seen alone in the Impetus locker room. He paces with the Impetus banner behind him and sees the team come in. Greg vents his satisfaction, happy to see Warren finally show some balls and man up to Adrenaline, finally showing a little Greg Williams inside of him and kick some ass. With Greg accepting Warren's role in the unit, the Impetus team cheer, with Warren rolling his eyes at Greg's self-absorption. Warren argues, claiming that Greg has allowed him on the team tonight as he has no other choice, telling him to not act like he's giving him some sort of permission. Warren is here for one thing and one thing only, and that is to get his coast-to-coast title back from the man who took it from him and everything else from him once and for all. Greg tells the cowboy to hold up on the shooting, as he may have run out of ammo, telling him to use his anger for the match. The two continue their back and forth until Daria stops the fight. She tells them that this isn't a dick measuring contest. This is a war. Impetus versus Adrenaline. They all may have their own agendas, but it's all the same overall goal, to take down Adrenaline. She'll be damned if Impetus' success tonight is going to be jeopardized by their childish squabble. They want to fight? Fight on episode 101, after they get rid of Adrenaline once and for all. She asks if the team are ready and puts her hand in the middle. El Fuego joined with Greg rolling his eyes and doing the same. Warren waits, sighs, and repeats the actions. Team Impetus are ready for a war. As Impetus put aside their problems for the better, Adrenaline, especially Corruption, have issues with Sam's judgments, creating tension between the villainous team and their boss. With the main event taking place, Daria is the first to be eliminated from the Impetus team. Disadvantaged, Warren eventually gets his hands on Dave Falcon, tearing him apart in the ring. Sending him to the outside with fury, Jaxon attempts to continue the punishment by hitting a suicide dive on the outside. Diving through the ropes, Warren gets smacked in the head in the process by Dave with the use of a steel chair. Although causing a disqualification and in turn getting eliminated, Dave Falcon has stopped the momentum of his rival. With Dave leaving and eliminated, Corruption throws Warren in the ring, only for Warren to kick out of a pin attempt. Corruption is enraged and goes to power slam him, only for Warren to escape and tag in the El Fuego member, Ricardo Cinxia. With the luchador attempting to mount offense, the plans fail, as he quickly gets eliminated by the Giant. With Hernando Listio trying to respond, the second El Fuego member gets pinned after a power slam by the Titan. With the Infliction eliminated from the Adrenaline team, the teams are now down to 2 apiece. Emerald and Corruption represent Adrenaline, and Greg and Warren represent Impetus. The final female is eventually eliminated thanks to the return of Daria. Corruption is now outnumbered. With Greg and Warren excited to win, their grins turn to frowns as they see Sam Pullen enter with anxiety. The president approaches Corruption and yells at him, motivating him to get the job done. Working together, Warren and Greg hit a double Gordo cutter on the Giant. With Sam now nervous, Corruption is pinned, but kicks out. Warren and Greg try their best to keep Corruption down, but the Giant is now pissed. He stands up and chokes both of his opponents, signaling the end. However, as he sends them up high for a double chokeslam, Greg counters with the triangle chokehold. With Sam going nuts on the outside, he stands on the apron to cause a distraction, only for Warren to super kick the boss's face off. Warren then locks in his own Indian deathlock on the legs of Corruption, all while Greg is dealing with the Giant's arm. With Sam slowly recovering, he tries to climb in the ring, only for it to be too late as Corruption must tap out. Sam lays with shock as Impetus continues and Adrenaline is dead. The entire Impetus locker room come out to celebrate with Greg and Warren, all while Corruption recovers, aided by a heartbroken Sam Pullen. Daria, El Fuego and Greg are handed their respective titles, with Warren being handed over the Coast to Coast title by Greg himself. Celebration continues as Corruption walks away with his sad team and boss. Adrenaline is dead, and we have a new Coast to Coast champion.